a C-rank player with the fighter trait, proudly repping the Hope Guild. Silverhead takes it up a notch, threatening to throw it back to the good old school days and beat our guy to a pulp, making him beg for mercy just like in the good old times. In a classic power move, Silverhead orders the chubby dude to scram unless he wants a front row seat to our impending brawl. But our man, the epitome of casual coolness, fires back with a nonchalant give it a shot. Unfazed, our hero stares down Silverhead with the icy calm of a seasoned poker player, inviting him to go ahead and try his luck at murder. Corporal Lee must have hit the last nerve because Silverhead loses it. He winds up for a punch, aiming straight for Corporal Lee, who stands there like a statue, completely unimpressed. But the fierce punch freezes midair as a pen hovers menacingly in front of Silverhead's eye, ready to ink him a new one. Blades appear at his feet, forming a deadly dance floor of impending doom. The scene zooms out, revealing Silverhead surrounded by a battalion of blades, each one poised to strike with just a flick of Corporal Lee's wrist. Corporal Lee throws down some heavyweight words, admitting he cannot guarantee victory over Silverhead, but he can darn well make sure Silverhead ends up looking like he got bulldozed by a whole army unit. Translation: our man here can turn him into a half-dead, regret-filled shadow of his former self, especially in close-range combat. The realization hits Silverhead like a ton of bricks. He is outclassed by our guy. But hold the drama, another character bursts into the room, announcing it is time to skedaddle if they want to make it to the event on time. However, the newcomer is left wide-eyed and probably wondering if he walked into the Twilight Zone after seeing the chaos unfolding before him. Abruptly, Corporal Lee pulls a 180, playing the victim card and issuing apologies left and right to Silverhead. Out of nowhere, he wraps Silverhead in an embrace, leaving Silverhead utterly bewildered. Now, here comes the masterstroke of mind games. Corporal Lee starts spewing some great bull, claiming he heard rumors that Silverhead got the boot from the White Tiger Guild for, wait for it, peeing his pants and bolting during his first raid. Cue a vivid mental image of Silverhead sprinting for dear life, courtesy of some unexpected bodily functions. Silverhead, visibly tensed, demands to know how Corporal Lee got wind of this embarrassing tidbit. Our man leans in, whispering a reminder that he has got a big mouth and advises Silverhead to shape up if he wants to avoid a public shaming by an F-rank player. Corporal Lee, not one to mince words, gives Silverhead the final boot, emphasizing the urgency to leave before things escalate any further. Outside the Hope Guild, everything appears calm and collected, blissfully unaware of the internal drama. Back inside, our man lays out the 3 guild cards he received from various seniors, spilling all the details about what is about to go down in these companies. The boy, still in disbelief, asks once more if it is legit. Are these stocks really about to shoot through the roof by those mind-boggling numbers? A simple nod from our man is the only reply needed. The boy's jaw practically hits the floor as the realization sinks in. If this intel is legit, we are talking about a life-changing turn of events. Outside the Blue Tree headquarters, a squadron of black-clad guards stands on guard duty, questioning how long they will be stuck on duty. One of them suggests spicing things up with a good old gate raid. But among these order-barking guards, Silverhead grinds his teeth, displaying an unusual level of agitation. His friend, clearly picking up on the vibes, asks about the sudden change in behavior. Just in the nick of time, their manager arrives on the scene, shooting daggers at the guards and labeling them as fucking servants, questioning why they are causing a ruckus in this supposedly reserved place. The spotlight shifts to a bulky dude, who turns to Silverhead with a stern expression, questioning if he is the leader of this rowdy guard gang. The dude, clearly unimpressed with Silverhead, casually places a hand on his shoulder, reminding him that it is Zone C. And in case he forgot, he throws some serious shade, questioning if Silverhead even knows the damn alphabet, specifically Zone C. The humiliation train is rolling full steam. It seems like Silverhead has had enough of this verbal assault. In a moment of frustration, he unleashes a swift punch, shutting up the relentless trash talker. Giant Dude takes an unexpected leap into the air, leaving the other guard on the sidelines in absolute bewilderment. But Silverhead is not hitting the brakes. Instead, he unleashes a barrage of punches on the airborne guy, and blood starts splattering like a gruesome paint job. The force of each punch is so intense that the ground beneath them begins to shatter. Silverhead is not showing any mercy. With every punch, blood rains down, creating a gruesome spectacle. The other guards, standing by like helpless witnesses, cannot believe their eyes. The relentless assault continues until Silverhead screeches to a halt. With a face oozing malice and vibes that would make a devil blush, he orders his lackey to go find Corporal Lee because he has got a burning desire to end that dipshit once and for. Inside the Hope Guild, the chubby boy, still reeling from the bombshell about the stocks, just cannot wrap his head around the possibility of them skyrocketing. This guy goes by the name Park Chalsu, the leader of Hope Guild and an analyst class player. He is the one who later leads the charge in rediscovering rank F and finds a way to enhance his abilities. He is straight up skeptical, admitting he just cannot believe it. It is a reasonable reaction, after all. Anyone claiming they can magically turn your life around with money would raise some eyebrows. Park Chalsu throws Corporal Lee a curveball, entertaining the possibility that they fed him this stock information to set him up for a fall. Our man, determined to win this guy over, goes all in, asking if he really thinks he is untrustworthy. The boy responds swiftly and expresses his complete trust in Corporal Lee. With a genuine smile plastered across his face, Corporal Lee assures him to believe it all because it's the truth. To seal the deal and win over chubby Park Chalsu, Corporal Lee pulls out the big guns. He reveals the chat between him and the battalion commander. It is crystal clear evidence that he has been offered a proposal to join as an officer in the commission. With the undeniable proof laid out in front of him, the chubby dude finally accepts the truth. Now, Corporal Lee, wearing a pleasant smile, reveals his ace in the hole. He is now offering all the savings his parents left him. He discloses that it is a modest 20 million won, admitting it is not a fortune, but it is what he has got. As we resume the story, the first thing we spot is Corporal Lee finally trusting this boy with all his savings, putting genuine faith in him. Now, we flash back to a memory where Corporal is crying his eyes out alone. Then, this chubby boy comes along, trying to console him and reassures him that nobody in this world is without talents. It is just that talent is given the name of one's superpower in this day and age. He tells Corporal not to beat himself up and to live a little longer until his talent is recognized as a superpower. Fast forward to the present, and Corporal Lee's treating this boy like the human sunshine who warmed his chilly nights back when he was a nobody. Now, we are getting the lowdown that in the near future, humanity is about to bump into some otherworldly beings who are pretty chatty. The tech goodies we snag from rubbing elbows with them are gonna be a game changer in the Gate War. These beings have skills that are downright essential in putting the brakes on the gates and waves heading our way. So, my guy needs an expert who can shoot the breeze with these intergalactic buddies and pass on their tech wizardry to him. Fast forward to Yongyungpo Blacksmith Alley, and we see the Corporal wandering around, hitting up a merchant for the price of a mana stone. Looks like he is gearing up for the future, and with 7 swarven artisans by his side. He is on a mission to craft his first master-grade item. He is trying to gather blacksmiths whose status has gone beyond artisan to master, all before the villains catch wind of the plan. So, he strolls into this workshop, and the smith's there, doing his usual thing. But this old grandpa, he just straight up tells the Corporal that he is only selling what is on these shelves. So he further tells Corporal to do not bother looking elsewhere, just focus on these items if you want something. And let me tell you, this blacksmith is no run-of-the-mill guy. He is artisan Kang Jeongdu, the dude who got the boot from the blacksmith's guild for his eccentricities. And trust me, you are about to find out why. In response, the Corporal just gives the old man a confused smile and casually says, I see. Now, the smith is knee-deep in his work, too busy to spare any attention. Classic. Turns out, this old guy is crafting something special, a javelin made of orichalcon. It might look crude, but guess it is the Dragon Slayer spear that is gonna be plunged right into the heart of the dragon. Terex. The Corporal finally clicks and realizes why the groundwork for the first master-grade items was laid in this ramshackle workshop. Now, a lady comes marching into the shop, straight up calling the Corporal a crusty. But the blacksmith spins around and gives her a stern scolding, telling her not to label customers like that. But the lady snaps back, accusing the grandpa of hypocrisy. She points out that he calls customers the same names, so why cannot she dish it out too? Despite being thrown off with weird nicknames, the Corporal sports a pleasant smile. It turns out, this lady is someone from his past life, none other than Kang Bixiol. 4 years later, after the old artisan Kang Jeongdu kicked the bucket, she inherited all his skills. This gal did not just stop at becoming a master smith, she surpassed even her master. Now, she starts scanning him with her keen eyes and immediately recognizes the branded long trench coat and Laurent boots. She swiftly transitions from a cocky brat to a graceful lady, reassuring the Corporal that he is not a crusty but a customer. She asks him what he is looking for and tells him to just spill the beans. My man puts on a crooked smile, realizing that her blind money craze suits a dwarf perfectly. With her attention hooked, he decides to dish out all the ingredients he wants. For that, he forks over a total of 18 million won, leaving the lady over the moon with excitement. However, the old smith is clearly baffled, noticing that this young gun is not a mage. So why is he buying poisonous magical metal and mystical tungsten alloy beads that he cannot even handle? Eventually, this guy's money is bound to be wasted. But the lady immediately chimes in, telling the smith to pipe it down and reminding him that he must have a place to use the items. The Corporal also responds, saying he just needs them and will be back to trade often. The old coot lets out a defeated sigh and mumbles a half-hearted sure. Now that he has snagged all the items he needed, he strides back, throwing a casual goodbye at the lady who is sparkling with enthusiasm. She tells him to visit often since, after all, she is all about the money and that is the only thing she is interested in. As he takes a flashback, remembering her painful demise in his previous life, he is now fully fired up to protect her at all costs this time around. It is the middle of the night, but the bustling city streets are lit up like it is a clear day. Amidst the lively scene, there is a guy in a hoodie lurking in the shadows, seemingly keeping a watchful eye on someone. Here's our man, with a bag full of poisonous items. He is casually picking them up one by one, treating them like marshmallows and chomping them down like it is no big deal. He is dead set on significantly increasing his poison resistance and the amount of metal weight he can manipulate before the vacation ends. I mean, who needs a midnight snack when you can have a poisonous power-up session? Out of nowhere, a system window pops up again, reminding us that the absorption of metal is in progress and it is enchanted with poison. The major thing to note is that the notification says Corporal has ingested a poison enchanted metal, and after absorption, his tolerance to poison will increase by a small amount. It is mentioned that this process would usually take the same time, but since he has unlocked a breathing room, it is happening faster than ever. Let us sneak a peek into his body and see how things are getting torn into his stomach. As soon as the poison enters his belly, the breathing room kicks in, working its wonders and producing fire. Now, this fire immediately starts to melt down the poison. Due to his internal furnace activation, his metal absorption efficiency skyrockets by 250%. However, nothing comes without a cost, and this furnace activation inflicts severe pain on him. Consequently, his face starts to pale due to the intense pain inflicted. The system goes bonkers, bombarding him with relentless notifications about upcoming severe pain. Despite the intense pain he is enduring, he is dead set on chowing down on that poison. Time's ticking, and the Soul Station Gate incident is not waiting around. 2 days pass, and a lackey draped in a hoodie finally spills the beans to his boss about Corporal Lee's mysterious whereabouts. The lackey confesses he has no clue what Corporal Lee is up to, but he has been locked in for 2 days and shows no sign of coming out. The moonglow is sneaking into the room through the window, and the entire stash of poison items lies empty. Finally, the window notification pops up again, revealing that Corporal has unlocked Tier 2 resistance to poison at a whopping 81%. Not only that, he has absorbed all the metals he chomped down, and his controllable metal weight has hit 17,499 grams. And his metal detection ability got a major boost. Now he can sense up to 500 grams of metal up to 135 meters away. So, now our guy is taking a moment to reflect on the progress he has made so far. He realizes that Tier 2 poison resistance is not quite as good as he expected. But he is relieved that at least he has enough controllable weight to carry about 60 daggers. And then, the window notification chimes in again, congratulating the dude for successfully passing the first latent breakthrough, and he has gained a new skill trait. The skill is called Metal Smash. It is a rank D, and its effect involves consuming mana to crush a certain amount of metal. The amount of mana consumed varies depending on the metal's quantity, making it a powerful skill that destroys metal. A wide grin stretches across his face because with this skill, he can disarm almost any piece of equipment in one fell swoop. The fact that he acquired this skill is good enough for the amount of skill grinding he did. He suddenly senses something fishy and starts scanning the area with his magical metal detector. Suddenly, an unexpected party crasher makes a grand entrance, and as it turns out it's Silverhead again. But my dude isn't too surprised to see him. In response, he casually reminds him that he's a soldier now, with all these rules and regulations governing his moves. So, he politely suggests that it's best for him to head back. However, a sly grin creeps onto Silverhead's face, making it clear he's not here for a friendly chat. Without wasting a moment, he lunges at our guy with lightning speed, fists ready to unleash a beating. Corporal Lee stands his ground, cool as a cucumber, and casually blocks the incoming attack with his silver hand, leaving Silverhead scratching his head in bewilderment. Silverhead isn't backing down, but Corporal Lee suggests taking the fight outside before the civilians get caught up in the chaos. But Silverhead is adamant and itching to teach our guy a lesson. With determination, he throws his feet into the air, preparing for another kick. Yet, our man effortlessly leans down, gracefully dodging the attack. He retaliates by preparing his own steel fist, delivering a devastating blow to Silverhead's belly. The dude groans in pain, collapsing to the ground. Despite the brutal hit, Silverhead refuses to drop his cocky tough guy act. Gathering himself, he then whips out his enchantment, unleashing a beefed-up leg hit on our guy. Corporal Lee goes flying through the air, breaking through walls like he is auditioning for a superhero role, and eventually takes a nosedive out of the building, leaving a giant hole in its wake. The silver-headed troublemaker is not ready to call it a day. He is determined to end our guy. As our falling hero takes a mid-air breather, he activates his strengthening body transformation skill. His feet start morphing into steel, and right on cue, Mr. Silverhead reappears, swinging with all his godly strength. But like a ninja in a high-stakes ballet, our man pulls off a mid-air stunt, changing direction as if it is a walk in the park. He lands gracefully on the ground, revealing that while he might not be able to fly freely like he used to in his past life, a clever mix of strengthening body transformation and metal control skills lets him control his descent like a boss. This relentless troublemaker comes hurling down again, ready to crush our guy like a tomato with his enchanted leg. But once more, our man, with lightning-quick reflexes, casually takes a step back, leaving Mr. Silverhead crashing into the ground. Now, the whole building's buzzing with excitement as residents peek out from their apartments to catch a glimpse of the impromptu showdown between two players. Silverhead, not one to be deterred, gears up for another attack while throwing insults our guy's way, questioning if he is just gonna keep dodging like a ninja rat. He screams at the top of his lungs, challenging our hero to come at him like before. Ignoring the verbal barrage, he takes a leap into the air, unleashing a barrage of kicks. But it seems none of them are finding their mark. After all, our man is not just any ninja, he is a seasoned military ninja. The surroundings start descending into chaos, and the pressure generated by their moves makes everything heavier. It is so intense that cars are literally floating above ground. Alright, so here we are, back in the building, and the crowd is losing their bananas. One person gives a quick heads up to the neighbors, avoid the first floor like it is haunted because there is a bunch of rowdy players down there causing a ruckus. Now, we see Corporal Lee is gracefully dodging kicks like he is dancing at a ninja ballet. But here's the catch, he is in a bit of a pickle. There is a gallery of civilians watching, and being the military officer he is, he cannot unleash his inner warrior too aggressively, afraid that if he does, it will mess up his grand plans for the Seoul Station Gate. After a dazzling display of 100 kicks in the air, our silver-headed hero finally plants his feet on solid ground. He then takes a peek at the peanut gallery staring down from the windows, some even recording this epic showdown. It is like they stumbled upon the weirdest street performance ever. To avoid landing on the wanted list, Silverhead decides to end this spectacle before it turns into the hottest viral video on the internet. Now, brace yourselves, because his legs start shimmering even more ferociously, like he is pushing the limits of some cosmic leg day workout. Corporal Lee, however, stands there, staring at this guy like he is asking if he is planning to turn the whole building into a pile of rubble. He reminds Mr. Shiny Hair that there are freaking civilians in the mix. With some serious authority, he yells at the dude, explaining that these innocent folks have zero business being dragged into their brawl. But Silverhead over here is on a whole new level of ticked off, claiming the public is just a bunch of trash bags sticking their noses where they should not. Undeterred, Silver Buddy takes another gravity-defying leap, ready to put an end to Corporal Lee. But Lee is not flinching, not even trying any fancy spins or acrobatics. At this point, Corporal Lee decides enough is enough. His eyes start shimmering with this cool blue energy, and it is like he is manipulating iron particles or something. Out of nowhere, he forges 2 rings and, with a magician's flair, grabs Silverhead's leg. The poor guy's fancy footwork equipment starts shattering into a million pieces. But Silverhead, however, seems to have missed the memo on stopping, still twirling in the air like some out-of-control gymnast, ready to lay the smackdown on Corporal Lee. Meanwhile, Corporal Lee is over there doing his shiny thing. Just when you think it could not get more interesting, a notification window pops up like we are in some cosmic RPG, and we find out Corporal Lee's trick is called Metal Smash. It is a rank D skill, and get this, it consumes mana to crush a certain amount of metal. Mana consumption varies depending on the metal applied. In the blink of an eye, Silverhead's leg goes from high-tech to plain old ordinary. But, just as it is about to make contact with Corporal Lee, there is a sudden splatter of blood, and screams of course echoing through vicinity. Now, once confident, Silverhead is groaning in pain and clutching his shattered leg. Life comes at you fast, especially when Corporal Lee is dealing the cards. Even though he is sprawled on the ground like a badly beaten up action figure, this guy is still keeping up the tough guy act. He is questioning our man, wondering why the heck he did this to him. But our hero is not in the mood for games. With a cold glare that could freeze time, he shoots back at the guy, asking why he is taking things to the extreme. The poor sod on the ground mumbles something about killing mosquitoes if they dare annoy him, no doubt about it. Corporal Lee, not one to mince words, reminds him of his less than stellar past. He digs into the guy's sorry history, pointing out that there must be a reason a lowlife like him, kicked out of a pack of wolves, is snarling like a wounded hyena. According to Corporal Lee, these superiority complex drunks do not deserve to be players. It is because, in his book, they always end up being the villains. But hold on to your seats, because it turns out Silverhead is not quite finished with the verbal bullshit. He starts laying it on thick again, testing Corporal Lee's patience. Our man, having zero interest in playing games, casually makes a finger gesture, and a sharp metal object appears right behind Silverhead's throat. With all the authority of a drill sergeant and a voice that could give you chills, Corporal Lee warns him never to show his face in front of him again. And just to drive the point home, he throws in a chilling promise that if Silverhead did, it would not just be a leg missing next time. Finally, Silverhead seems to have reached his breaking point. Meanwhile, Corporal Lee is still fuming, grinding his teeth, all while reminding Silverhead to thank his lucky stars that he is a military officer. If not, this silver dude would be in a world of hurt right about now. Finally, the cavalry in blue arrives at the scene. We find ourselves now outside the Awakened Task Force headquarters. Inside, Corporal Lee finds himself in the hot seat, facing interrogation. The officer in charge remarks that witness statements are aligning, painting Silverhead as a problematic and vicious character. Now, if we zoom in on this officer, it is his first rodeo dealing with someone like Corporal Lee, a low-rank player walking away from a fight without so much as a scratch. Corporal Lee, master of spin, casually attributes his survival to the greave, a shin and calf armor. With the green signal to go, Corporal Lee starts strolling out of the office, contemplating how he spent his whole life despising the F-rank player label. Little did he know, it would come in handy, helping him avoid suspicions and walk away from a brawl looking as fresh as a daisy. After Corporal Lee's departure, a newcomer rushes toward the officer with an urgent file in hand. Panicking, the newcomer insists the officer take a look at the profile. According to the report, the Silverhead got a serious beatdown from Corporal Lee. The officer, mouth hanging wide open, finds the idea of an F-rank player crushing a C-rank player's armor and taking him down without a scratch utterly unbelievable. Meanwhile, outside the headquarters, Corporal Lee is picking up momentum. In the blink of an eye, he dashes out like it is no big deal. Even the civilians in the vicinity cannot see what is coming. They just feel a breeze as something zips by them. As he runs, the only thing swirling in his mind is the Seoul Station incident. In his past life, he recalls the death toll starting at the gates of Seoul Station around 1524 today. So far, 745 confirmed casualties, and aside from the first, second, and third waves, this is shaping up to be a monster disaster unlike anything humanity has ever seen before. As Corporal Lee continues his journey, he takes a moment to glance at the news. The reports are pouring in about the Seoul Station tragedy, sparking criticism from player experts and civil society organizations. Questions are being raised about the fundamental limitations and problems with the current gate response system. In the present, while soaring into the air, there is a lingering tension that grips his mind. He reflects on his experiences with the first two gates, but this upcoming one is an unknown. So with limited information, he realizes he might need to adjust his plans. He is determined to prevent this disaster, especially considering this one is worst among all of the Seoul City incidents, and he is ready to take any action. The clock is ticking, time slipping away. The only thought echoing in his head, will he be able to handle it with his current progress? Inside the station, Corporal Lee is surrounded by ordinary citizens. A part of him urges him to go on a rampage, evacuate the general population. But he knows better. Somewhere among these ordinary folks, a villain might be lurking in the shadows. If he goes into hiding during chaos, he will miss the turning point that could change the future. So, he stands in the crowd, searching for any anomaly. The clock is ticking, and there are only 2 minutes left. Suddenly, a voice catches him off guard. The scene shifts, revealing the platoon vice president running toward him. She looks exhausted, as if she just ran a marathon, and confesses she has been looking for him for so long. With her big assets on full display, the lady goes into full scolding mode, giving Corporal Lee an earful. Apparently, news has spread like wildfire through the unit that Corporal visited the police station last night, and everyone's going crazy. Corporal Lee is left scratching his head, wondering how she knew he would be here. The lady, not missing a beat, reminds him that he mentioned having plans at Seoul Station. As the lady continues her scolding, she throws a curveball, asking why Corporal Lee has not been picking up his phone. The dude is left in thought, scratching his head, wondering why the vice president is even at Seoul Station in the first place. It is like a plot twist he did not see coming, and he is starting to ponder if he has accidentally become the master of altering the future. With 1 minute left on the digital clock, signaling the impending arrival of the worst gate in the world, the lady demands an explanation for his visit to the police station. She wants to know everything right here. However, Corporal Lee is not vibing with the arguing and questions. Time is of the essence, and the gate is about to pop out any second. There is no room for dilly-dallying. He has got a plan to stick to. As the crucial moment arrives, Corporal Lee wastes no time and casually tosses some marble-like objects onto the ground, leaving the lady bewildered, wondering what the heck he is up to. The crowd also loses its collective mind, throwing shade at him for this unexpected toss of balls. They are not exactly convinced he should be playing marbles in the middle of station. Meanwhile, the vice president is on the same wavelength, shouting at him and demanding answers. She is all about the why are not you answering me drama, completely missing the fact that Corporal Lee is not in the mood for pleasantries. Our man in charge is not here for chit-chat. He instructs the vice president that when he gives the signal, she better run to where the gas masks are. Once again, the lady is left bewildered because this is definitely not what she was expecting to hear from Corporal Lee. Meanwhile, a mysterious smoke begins to envelop the surroundings, and the pressure intensifies as a thick purple aura starts to surround the area. Suddenly, a rift appears out of nowhere, and a purple portal materializes in the middle of the station. All eyes are drawn upward to the portal, leaving the lady scratching her head, wondering what in the hell is going on. And out of the portal, a giant monster starts to emerge, and Corporal Lee immediately turns around urgently. He shouts and signals for everyone to run towards where the gas masks are. Now, this spider-like beast finally decides to grace the ground, kicking off the chaos and doom party. It then passionately lunges towards the poor civilians who are attempting a marathon to outrun this monstrous sprinter. We spot Corporal Hero lending a hand to the evacuating civilians. He then orders the platoon leader to hit the safety zone pronto and, of course, snag a stylish gas mask from the passenger aid station. Finally, it seems the platoon leader is not exactly vibing with this brilliant plan. She snaps back, reminding him that she is not planning on being a solo survivor. After all, she is a soldier, not combat personnel, and her mission is evacuating the civilians and playing nurse to the wounded. She drops the bomb that she is not entirely sure what on earth he is up to, but she is putting her faith in him. As the platoon leader, she throws down the command for him to stay alive at all costs. Our man is feeling this energy, vibing on the same frequency, and with equal gusto, he reciprocates, "Yes, madam." Now, the scene shifts, and we catch the battalion commander facing off with his senior, who seems less thrilled about the idea of promoting Corporal Lee, given his humble F-rank status. However, the battalion commander drops a truth bomb, claiming that assessing someone's potential as an outstanding officer goes beyond the mere mechanical grading of ranks. At this point, the senior starts to feel a bit challenged, and lets out a frustrated wet escape from his lips. This is where the battalion commander spills the tea, revealing that the whole rank system is not just about checking boxes on a player's profile. It is not like picking your character level in a game. These ranks are handed out at the player training center based on expected outcomes of traits and aptitude in raid fights. It is all about real-life battle effectiveness. And as the players level up, the department is tweaking the ranks to keep it real. He further mentions that undervalued skills are getting squashed on the field. By the way, the player training center is the boot camp of South Korea. Everyone who is anyone gets admitted, gets schooled for about 2 months, and then gets their initial rank after a basic test. Now we are back in the thick of it, where the battalion commander is laying it all out, trying to get his boss to see the light about Corporal Lee's much-deserved promotion. But then, his senior is not having any of it, almost like he is asking if the battalion commander is trying to school him on military affairs. And let us not forget, this is not just any senior officer. We are talking about the one and only Brigadier General Choi Yun-cheol of the 3rd Amp Brigade, ranked 32nd in South Korea. A rank player whose magic spells are so epic, they could give any tactical weapon a run for its money. But the battalion commander, bless his heart, quickly backpedals with a no, sir, not wanting to ruffle any feathers. General Choi is not letting it slide, though. He hits back, pondering why any self-respecting veteran would ditch their cushy civil guild gigs to join the AMT if they start handing out officer titles to, as he sees it, a lowly F-ranker like Corporal Lee. Then, with a tone as sharp as a freshly honed blade, he digs in, challenging the battalion commander on what exactly he finds so flawed with the military system as it stands. It is all a bit of a mess, but you have got to admit, military politics never sounded so entertaining. He makes his stance crystal clear, suggesting the battalion commander might see Corporal Lee as the next big thing. But to the general, Lee's about as intimidating as a bug. Just as the tension could be cut with a knife, the telephone rings, slicing through the standoff. The general picks up, and on the other end, the news drops like a bomb. A gate has popped up within the 1st Battalion's turf, smack dab in the middle of Seoul Station. And just to spice things up, it is not your garden variety gate, it is an unlucky event one. Both the battalion commander and General Choi are floored by the news. These unlucky events are like the universe's own brand of natural disasters, hitting specific areas with debuffs that could hobble a player or pile on extra rules that make missions a headache and a half. Now, back at Seoul Station, we are smack in the middle of this giant anomaly. There is a cloud-like barrier has swallowed the whole place up. Inside, players are doing their darndest to torch these spider-like monsters to a crisp. But here's the kicker, the fire is almost like a gentle breeze to these critters. Amidst the chaos, one soldier, probably with his adrenaline through the roof, yells out to his team leader, asking what in the world this spider monster is. It is not like anything they have seen in their field guide before. And just as he is pondering this new existential threat, one of the monster's legs, sharp as a spear, darts towards him. It is inches away from turning his head into a shish kebab. But there is a twist. Another soldier dashes in, moving with the kind of speed that would make a cheetah jealous, and he saves his comrade in the nick of time, leaving the spider's sharp leg to only meet the ground, which it punctures, sending debris and rubble flying. Meanwhile, another soldier is laying on the heat, trying to distract the spider with flames, while the other 2 soldiers are still catching their breath after that narrow escape from becoming spider kebabs. The hero who made the save is not just any player, he is Gyani Manhwa, a Class C veteran player with the Gladiator trait, rocking it in Seoul Station's Guard Team 2. Gyani, with lungs of steel, yells to his crew to switch to a frost rune and tie down this beast's legs. His team does not miss a beat, quickly shifting gears to the frost rune, as the monster bellows like it is the end of the world. Gyani gives the green light to blast this beast, and they unleash a cold fury on the spider. Before you know it, the spiders turn into a giant frost popsicle. The soldiers take a moment to catch their breath, relieved that the spider is temporarily out of commission. But Gyani knows better than to celebrate too early. Given the size of this behemoth, he figures it will not stay frozen for long. They need to do some damage while they can. With that in mind, he charges at the frozen spider, ready to take it down a notch. He leaps into the air, aiming to strike the icy giant. But then, a closer look into the spider's eyes reveals a chilling fact. This creature's eyes are moving. It is fully aware of what is about to come its way. Immediately, the monster breaks free from its frosty shackles, shattering the ice as if it were mere glass. Gyani, still midair with his sword poised for a decisive blow, suddenly finds himself in a precarious position, looking more like an appetizer about to dive straight into the monster's gaping maw. But just before the spider can turn him into a snack, Gyani whips out his shield guard technique. And as if the gods decided to add a little more drama to the scene, Lightning balls start zapping towards the spider, giving it a taste of electric fury. While Gyani is up there doing his aerial ballet, the spider shifts its menacing gaze towards a new challenger on the battlefield. Now Corporal Lee enters into the scene. With all the authority of a seasoned hero, Lee strides towards the spider, exuding the kind of confidence that would make Superman tip his cape in respect. Corporal Lee does not waste a moment on small talk and dives straight into action with his metal manipulation powers. With a flourish of his hands, he conjures metal chains, snaring the spider in a metallic grip that tightens by the second. The process intensifies, and the spider writhes in agony as the chains constrict. Lee is employing a technique known as Metal Smash, a rank D skill that crushes metal using mana. The more metal he manipulates, the more mana it consumes. As he is ramping up the pressure, the system sends him a warning that his mana is rapidly depleting, now at 84%. But Lee is on a mission. He is not here to play around. Ignoring the warnings, he intensifies the process further, and another alert pops up. His mana has now dropped to 76%. With a final push, his metal chains constrict with such force that the spider is smashed into hundreds of pieces, reminiscent of a watermelon hit with a sledgehammer. Gyani watches in awe, his jaws practically hitting the floor at the display of raw power. It seems he is not only one whose jaw is hitting the floor, but everyone else in the vicinity is also left dumbfounded to see the spectacle. Greenish blood and limbs scatter in every direction. But amidst the chaos, Corporal Lee stands defiantly, basking in the success of his powers. With a newfound confidence surging through him, he is convinced he can take down this gate, and whatever else comes his way. A wider grin spreads across Corporal Lee's face, not just because he is about to save the civilians by stopping this monster, but also because he is eyeing the reward, all of it, for himself. As the beast struggles to regain its footing and emits a terrifying scream that echoes throughout the area, Corporal Lee stands before it, utterly unfazed. At this moment, he feels invincible, a maniac reveling in his power against the colossal behemoth. He begins to manipulate the metal balls scattered around, launching a barrage at the creature to squash it completely, intending to drain every last bit of temper from the monster. The balls aim straight for the spider's vulnerable spots, attempting to penetrate its thick skin. However, the monster's hide proves too resilient, refusing to let the balls through. But Corporal Lee, ever resourceful, is not deterred. He makes the balls spin, adding a devastating twist to his attack. Realizing its predicament, the monster seems to understand he is fucked. Meanwhile, the fucker is laughing like a maniac, taunts the creature, asking how it feels to be churned up inside like ingredients in a blender. But the monster is too overwhelmed by pain to respond, can do nothing but groan. Finally, it collapses to the ground, lifeless, as blood gushes out, marking the end of the beast and the triumph of Corporal Lee, who stands victorious, a testament to his formidable powers and strategic mind. At this point, Gyani is still reeling from shock. He cannot wrap his head around the fact that the entire garrison of guards could not even scratch that monster. Yet here's this guy, Corporal Lee, capturing it single-handedly. Gyani has been through countless raids and encountered many high-ranking players, but he has never seen anyone as laid back as Corporal Lee. He starts to entertain the idea that maybe Lee is from some mythical S-rank or class, the kind you only hear about in legends. But now, there seems to be someone else as well grinding his teeth and seething with frustration. And this mysterious guy is afraid that Corporal Lee is about to steal all the glory and potentially ruin his quest by popping up out of nowhere. Finally, Gyani turns to Lee, introducing himself as Gyani Manhwa from the Seoul Station Guard Team 2, and bluntly asks if Lee is an S-rank player. But Lee, cool as a cucumber, tells him not to jump to conclusions so quickly, leaving Gyani bewildered by the unexpected response. Lee then casually mentions that the first wave is not over yet. Right on cue, more spider monsters start pouring out of the portal, leaving Gyani dumbfounded. But Corporal Lee is grinning like a maniac, over the moon to see more of these creatures emerging. At this point, Lee has one thing crystal clear: he is going to solo these suckers. And with that determination gleaming in his eyes, he is ready to take on whatever the gate throws his way. Now we are outside the chaos, where a colossal black blob dominates the scene, and the military has descended upon the area. It is not just 1 or 2 platoons, it is a full-blown army, with the 1st Battalion and the 3rd Battalion both on the ground. Adding to the mix, the Blue Flower Guild arrives at the scene, and one member remarks that the sight of military troops brings back memories. Another guild member suggests gathering all the mage players to unleash some battering magic on the ominous dome. However, someone opposes the idea, explaining that it is not just magic, it is a rule created by the system. Breaking through is not possible unless there is a way to override the system. So, for now, all they can do is wait for time to pass. Military choppers start descending onto the scene. We also get to see a red system alert that provides crucial information about the ongoing event. It is an unlucky event unfolding in the area, and once someone enters, there is no leaving. There is also an entry-level limit set at level 15. And the main goal is to survive for 6 hours or defeat the boss monster to escape the red area. The clock is ticking, with only 39 minutes passed in 5 hours and 21 minutes still ahead on the countdown. As the choppers finally touch down, figures of authority emerge, ready to take action. Among them are the lady president of the Flower Guild and everyone's favorite battalion commander, who wastes no time inquiring about the Blue Flower Guild's situation with players under level 15. With a touch of sass, the lady president fires back, questioning whether the battalion commander truly believes the Blue Flower Guild would have players like that. She further challenges the notion of sending a rescue team inside, emphasizing that entering the area is tantamount to walking into certain death. Undeterred, the commander emphasizes the 800 innocent lives at stake and questions how they can prioritize soldier lives over civilians. He then reveals their trump card, Corporal Lee, who's been on a relentless rampage, slashing through monsters like there is no tomorrow. Suddenly, a sharp leg hurtles towards Corporal Lee, but he is quick to react, activating his strengthening body transformation skill and making a swift exit, leaving the spider's attack to meet only the unforgiving ground. As Corporal Lee gracefully glides through the air, the relentless monster is hot on his trail, giving him no respite. Thinking on his feet, he turns to the Soul Station guard and instructs them to freeze the pursuing creature, just as they did before. Gyani immediately responds with a crisp understood, and the team goes into action, unleashing another barrage of frost rune blasts. The beast finds itself getting a literal case of cold feet as it turns into a frozen popsicle. Amidst the icy chaos, a new player arrives on the scene, eyeing a lady who seems to be deeply involved in freezing the monster. Out of nowhere, this interloper lunges at her with monstrous energy, attempting to knock her off guard. However, Corporal Lee, ever vigilant, jumps into the fray, utilizing his metal control powers to manipulate ball-like objects. With precision, he hurls them toward the spider, landing direct hits on the monster's belly. Employing his metal spin technique, Lee ensures the balls spin to pierce through the thick spider skin. The monster, now with balls inside, screams in agony before collapsing lifeless on the ground. With one threat neutralized, attention turns to the other monster, chilling in the icy aftermath. But unexpectedly, it breaks free from the icy mess, intensifying its roar, signaling that the fight is far from over. Corporal Lee, far from slowing down, is even more fired up and ready to send the monster to the same place his friend went. However, a warning pops up, cautioning him about his rapidly depleting mana. Nevertheless, he continues his relentless assault on the monster, delivering a beating of a lifetime. Undeterred, Corporal Lee once again unleashes his Metal Smash ability, squashing the monster like a watermelon. Yet, this victory comes at a cost, as his mana now stands at a meager 39%. Exhaustion begins to set in, and Lee starts to feel the toll of his intense efforts. On the sidelines, this mysterious guy observes Corporal Lee, utterly baffled. He is convinced that a player of Lee's caliber would not bother with subways or trains, and he cannot comprehend why someone like him is hanging around Soul Station. Fuming, he realizes that Corporal Lee has thrown a wrench into the plan, and he never anticipated failing his first mission like this. A notification window pops up, revealing that the guy has failed to achieve the following goals for his quest: to bide his time until the venomous ironclad spider at Gate 1 nests inside Soul Station. As for the reward, he stands at the villain candidate rank, and completing the quest is crucial to increase his ranks. The window warns that if he does not complete the quest properly after accepting it, it will be game over with death. Devastated, this dude is determined to wipe Corporal Lee out of the equation. Meanwhile, we see civilians gathered in certain parts of Soul Station, while other areas are eerily deserted. The monstrous creatures are on the receiving end of a thorough beating, and with this monster demise, the first wave comes to an end. Corporal Lee, victorious, shouts at the guards to gather around. Gyani appears, expressing gratitude to Corporal Lee for his assistance, acknowledging that the guards could not have stopped the first wave on their own. Seizing the opportunity, Gyani once again takes the liberty to inquire about Corporal Lee's name and expresses curiosity about his player rank. Instead of responding, Corporal Lee starts scanning the other soldiers standing around. The male soldiers are puzzled, wondering why this guy is giving them a cold stare, while the female guards find it charming and start blushing. Gyani notices the peculiar behavior and asks Corporal Lee if something is wrong. However, Corporal Lee seems lost in thought, trying to figure out if the guy who triggered the event is present. He recalls hearing that the culprit was supposed to be one of the guards, but the individual is nowhere to be found. Suddenly, the platoon vice president enters the scene, and Corporal Lee reports to her, inquiring if all the civilians have been evacuated. Gyani is visibly losing his composure, questioning how an S-rank player is involved in military service, as S-rank players are supposed to be exempt, given their uncontrollable abilities. The vice president takes charge, providing details about the situation. She explains that the spiders were enormous, so they divided the citizens into small groups and evacuated them by placing them in rooms with narrow passageways. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured. She instructs Corporal Lee to report everything that happened during the first wave. So, Corporal Lee is basically playing detective, scanning the surroundings in a quest to nab the culprit. He is already pressed for time, and the sneaky suspect seems to be playing hide and seek somewhere else. In an attempt to break the tension, Corporal Lee throws in the idea that there might be a double gate. The Plotto lady and Gyani both react like they just got hit by a surprise train. Corporal Lee's mind is on overdrive, thinking about the possibility that if he starts searching among the 800 civilians here, the culprit could easily slip away. And if things go south and the second wave kicks in, he is determined to stay one step ahead of that guy, or he is pretty much toast. Now, we are back outside, witnessing the battalion commander barking orders at Lieutenant Lee H. Women. He appoints him as the field commanding officer for the Seoul Station rescue operation. So, Lieutenant Lee promptly reports back, assuring everyone he's got it under control. Now, his platoon members are gossiping among themselves, wondering how the lieutenant is not a C-rank player when he is not even level 15 yet. The redhead, not exactly thrilled with the comments, is definitely not vibing with the chit-chat behind his back. The battalion commander steps in with a commanding voice, expressing that it is with a heavy heart he is sending in his low-level troops. However, he emphasizes that the lives of the citizens are at stake and instructs them to protect them as soldiers. The energetic soldiers respond with a resounding yes, sir in unison. Then, the battalion commander singles out the lieutenant, who turns around curiously. The commander makes it clear that when Lieutenant encounters Lee Hyun-wook inside the station, he must actively incorporate Corporal Lee's input into the operations. The lieutenant, not exactly a fan of Corporal Lee, cannot quite swallow the idea of following his commands so easily. Now, back inside the station, we see another gate has appeared in the area, and the first thing that greets everyone is a creepy skeleton with even its head fractured. Suddenly, a system window pops up, assuring the culprit that monsters in the area will not attack him. But as the culprit gazes at a bunch of skeletons on the ground, a shiver runs down his spine. He questions the system, exclaiming, "What the heck is this? They are all dead," and wonders if this is what will not attack really means. Then, another notification appears, laying out the quests the user has to complete. The first one is to bide his time until the venomous ironclad spider at Gate 1 has nested inside the Seoul Station. The second task is to slaughter at least 500 civilians by any means necessary. The third quest involves delivering the time received from the elite monster, the Evil Seeker 11, at Gate 2 to the Villain Alliance. Now, the culprit decides to go along with this bizarre idea. After all, completing this quest could elevate him to the esteemed rank of a regular villain. Despite the downright weirdness of the quests, he figures he has no option but to roll with it. It is not every day you get handed such an unusual mission. Just as the culprit is soaking in the strange quest menu, out of nowhere, steel balls come flying at him from behind. But wait, before these metallic projectiles could turn him into a human pin cushion, Mother Nature decides to make an entrance. A bunch of roots bursts out of the ground like they have been waiting for their cue in a magical garden play. In a blink of an eye, the roots wrap around the culprit, providing him with a full-blown cover from the impending steel ball barrage. Now, the culprit is grinding after realizing that he is no longer standing out like a sore thumb and does not have to skulk in the shadows to complete his missions anymore. On the flip side, there stands Corporal Lee, armed with his trusty steel balls and ready for action. He starts spilling the beans about the culprit's master plan. Apparently, the sneaky guy was plotting to hide among the citizens, waiting for the guards to become instant sushi during the first wave. And just in case there were other players among the civilians, he planned to cosplay as a guard to avoid suspicion. Giving credit where credit is due, Corporal Lee acknowledges the sheer brilliance of this guy's elaborate scheme. Then, in a classic dramatic twist, Corporal Lee drops Tang Jusip's real name like a bombshell. The guy behind the roots practically jumps out of his skin at the sound of his own name. Now this dude finds himself visibly shaken and shoots Corporal Lee a curious glance, probably wondering if they attended villain school together or something. This is where we come to know that Tang Jusip is more than just a regular player. He is a B-rank player villain candidate with the ability of a cannibal tree, and he has aspirations to climb the ranks and earn the prestigious title of the Black Tentacle Villain, and in future he will be the one. Now, my man flashes him a cheeky grin, letting him know he is well aware of villainous types like him. But Scarface is left utterly dumbfounded. The fact that Corporal Lee knows all about him, while Scarface does not know jack shit about Corporal Lee, is scaring the bejesus out of this guy. He then quickly hushes Corporal Lee and insists him to keep the villain talk on the down low. Without skipping a beat, Scarface launches his roots towards our guy, assuming Corporal Lee must be some high-ranking player. But with a sly grin, Scarface makes it crystal clear that no matter Corporal Lee's rank, his abilities pale in comparison to Scarface's own compatible powers. He scoffs at the idea of Corporal Lee's metal balls doing any damage. This is the moment when fire starts to dance around Corporal Lee's face, his grin widening as if he has already cracked the code. Taking a deep breath, fire swirls into his mouth as he casually asks Scarface the million-dollar question: what exactly is his ability compatible with? Now, let us take a stroll down Corporal Lee's memory lane, where this scar-faced guy wreaked havoc with his root manipulation. Even the innocent civilians were in his grasp, getting utterly humiliated and torn apart by him. Back then, he shouted at the top of his lungs for the Great Steel Emperor to come out of hiding. With no regard for human life, he asked the Steel Emperor if he is gonna hide and watch his cannibal tree slaughter and devour every human in their grasp. And this guy, Black Tentacle Young Jusep, has abilities that consist of a cannibal tree, a rank player. Finally, we catch a glimpse of the Steel Emperor standing amidst these swirling roots. As the camera zooms in, we see him bleeding his lungs out. Just a small warning before we head into the next 2 episodes, I have made a mistake with a certain person's pronouns. They were sometimes being referred to as a female inside the comic, but that was just a translator error, because that person is clearly a male character, and I unfortunately decided to refer them as a female because of the mistranslation. Please ignore this mistake as you listen ahead, as it will not be repeated after episodes 11 and 12. Thank you. Here we are again, back at the scene where Scarface is gearing up to throw down on our guy. But our hero not even flinching. In fact, there is this quirky smirk playing on his lips, a dead giveaway he has got everything figured out. As Scarface's tree roots start lunging at Corporal Lee, our boy is sidestepping them with such flair, you would think he is working through his morning workout routine. Meanwhile, Scarface is steaming, utterly bamboozled by Corporal Lee's near-divine agility. Just when you think you have seen it all, Corporal Lee decides to kick it up a notch. With a sudden leap, he is off, vanishing into thin air, only to reappear moving faster than a speeding bullet, his trusty metal balls at the ready. With a flick of his wrist, those balls are soaring towards Scarface like heat-seeking missiles. But let us not sell Scarface short, the man's got moves too. He is weaving through those metal threats, dodging left and right with his tree roots, making sure not a single one lands a hit. Once more, Scarface flings his roots towards our guy, aiming to trap him in a corner. But Corporal Lee is not the type to be easily subdued. With a swift leap, he takes to the air, leaving Scarface's attempts grounded. The frustration on Scarface's face is palpable, each second adding to his disbelief. He cannot fathom that Corporal Lee's simple tactics are outmaneuvering him, and the sight of Lee advancing fearlessly is what unnerves him the most. Mid-leap, Lee employs his signature finger gesture again, sending metal balls raining down towards Scarface. Yet, Scarface, ever the quick thinker, shields himself with his roots, creating a makeshift fortress. Encased within his rooty bastion, he shouts down to Corporal Lee, calling him a moron. He taunts Lee, proclaiming he can launch all the attacks he wants, but it is all in vain. None will breach his vegetative defense. At this point, Corporal Lee lands deftly atop the root shield that Scarface has conjured, a wide grin spreading across his face. He states that looks like I have found enough firewood for the day, a comment that flies right over Scarface's head. Unperturbed, Scarface retorts, insisting that despite Lee's proximity, he is powerless against him, mocking Lee's ignorance of his true capabilities. In a bold move, Scarface reaches out to grab Corporal Lee's hand, intending to fully deploy his cannibal tree powers by attempting to consume Lee's arm. However, instead of panic, a broad grin remains plastered on Lee's face, and fire starts flickering at the corners of his mouth. Just as Scarface thinks he is about to digest his foe, Corporal Lee showcases his resilience by activating his body's strengthening ability, transforming his arm into steel. Scarface, baffled by his inability to digest Lee's arm, scratches his head in confusion, completely taken aback by Lee's unexpected prowess. Meanwhile, Lee, undeterred and as confident as ever, opens his mouth wide. As he inhales deeply, fire begins to amass within, signaling the unleashing of yet another formidable ability. At this critical point, Scarface starts to grasp the severity of his predicament. The thought racing through his mind is sheer bewilderment. Initially, he was only dodging metal balls, and now, out of nowhere, Corporal Lee is unleashing fire powers. Where in the world did this fire ability come from? He wonders, panic setting in. Realizing his imminent defeat, Scarface begins to plead for his life, claiming he is on a crucial quest. He offers Corporal Lee all the rewards meant for the quest's completion in exchange for mercy. Scarface, now with a grin, thinks he has played his best card, confident no one could refuse such a lucrative offer. However, as the fire in Corporal Lee's mouth grows more intense, Scarface, desperate, tries to renegotiate, promising to dedicate everything once the quest is completed. But Corporal Lee is not buying it. He dismisses Scarface's plea as utter nonsense, revealing that Scarface had tried the same deceit in Lee's previous life. Determined not to be fooled again, Lee stands firm against Scarface's manipulation. Scarface is utterly confused by the mention of a previous life, blurting out a bewildered what. But before he can grasp the situation, Corporal Lee, with no room for further discussion, commands, "Just die already." He unleashes a ferocious blast of fire from his mouth, engulfing everything in the vicinity. Inside his root shelter, Scarface can only scream as he is consumed by the flames, his pleas for mercy lost in the roar of the fire that reduces him to ashes. Now, we find ourselves outside, where we see the lower-ranking soldiers about to make their entrance into Seoul Station. The platoon commander, in a moment of fatherly concern mixed with military sternness, tells his soldiers there is no predicting what kind of gate has swung open inside. So, he urges everyone to pull themselves together in the most polite way possible, of course. As we zoom in on the soldiers in line, it is clear they are psyching themselves up, trying to mentally prepare before they dive into this proverbial hellhole. Just as they inch closer to the danger zone, a system alert pops up like an unwanted ad, blaring that this is a dangerous area. But our soldiers are not the type to click the back button. With courage cranked up to the max, they are determined to step inside. However, the system, in a voice that probably reminds them of every doomsayer they have ever ignored, announces that once they are in this nightmare, there is no stepping outside unless they tick off some pretty specific conditions. But these soldiers are on a mission all their own. As soon as they cross into the station, They spring into action, each taking on their role with a mix of dread and determination. Suddenly, Private Park lets out a yell that could wake the dead, absolutely petrified. Because right in front of him lies a gigantic spider, sprawled out on the ground, lifeless. The platoon leader, without missing a beat, whispers to Private Park with the urgency of a parent in a library, telling him to dude shut the fuck up. As they proceed with all the caution they can muster, someone calls out, "Who goes there?" The platoon leader quickly pipes up, "We are the amped rescue team, at your service." On the other end of the call-out stands Gyani, the ever-vigilant Seoul Station guard. So, the guard spills the beans about the portal and all the thrilling bits and pieces. The lieutenant, ever so curious, inquires about the civilian casualties and what exactly went down. The guard, proud as can be, explains that thanks to an amped operation, everyone was evacuated, and every guard is following their orders to the letter. Now, the lieutenant starts to get a tad heated, immediately asking about a female soldier, bombarding the guard with questions about her well-being. The guard, taken aback by the lieutenant's relentless inquiry, finally mentions that the female soldier is managing the situation at the temporary shelter. But then the guard casually mentions that the guy he is talking about is Corporal Lee Hyunwook. Apparently, everyone here is dancing to his tune, and of course, the lieutenant is grinding his teeth because he has never been a fan of our boy. But immediately, Private Park jumps into the conversation, asking if the dude in question has spiky hair and sometimes sports a sinister smile. The guard confirms with a quick yes, and Private Park chimes in, suggesting to the platoon leader that it seems to be Corporal Lee Hyunwook after all. However, it looks like the platoon leader is not thrilled about the topic of our guy. In a burst of frustration, he snaps at Private Park, telling him to shut the fuck up and remember his place. Poor Private Park just turns around and apologizes. After all, you cannot talk back to the platoon leader. The platoon leader then raises his voice at the officer, reminding him that Corporal Lee is just a lowly F ranker, while he himself is a C ranker and therefore the one in charge now. But then, the officer throws a curveball, questioning platoon leader on how he managed to enter the place. He points out that there is a restriction at level 15 that bars anyone above level 15 from entering the station and emphasizes the question of how the platoon leader got in if he is such a high ranker. Now, the platoon leader is at a loss for words, just staring blankly at the officer, unsure of what to say. With a weighty tone, the officer makes it clear that he is aware of Corporal Lee's rank because he has heard it earlier. But he lays it out plainly that he is following Lee's orders because he believes Corporal Lee is fit for command. Besides, the officer reveals that he is a C ranker too, so there is no obligation for him to follow the orders of a mere platoon leader. He continues to throw truth bombs at the platoon leader, humiliating him by stating that although he calls himself the rescue squad, all he is doing is flaunting his arrogance. He challenges the platoon leader, questioning what his plan is to rescue the trapped civilians and whether he even has a plan or a way out amidst this unfortunate event. Caught off guard, the platoon leader starts to panic, suggesting that for now, their best bet is to build a barricade at the entrance with a narrow passageway and bide their time. But then, the vice president arrives, announcing they are in big trouble. The platoon leader rushes towards her, concerned about her well-being and asking if she is hurt. Instead of exchanging pleasantries or high fives, she questions why he came here. He reveals his intention to rescue her. She cuts him off, telling him to drop the act because there is a double gate spotted, and civilians has found it. Now we see the civilians going absolutely bonkers, demanding to speak to whoever's in charge. The crowd is furious, itching to know why they kept it a secret that there was a double gate. Then, one of the guards tries to calm the civilians, saying they wanted to avoid causing chaos. But there is this one guy in the crowd, really making a scene, questioning how they can trust the guards. He goes on to challenge their duty, asking if they even understand what it means to be a guard. He throws out a zinger, suggesting they are just using civilians as human shields to buy time. Then, the lady who was totally called out retorts, asking where in the world he heard such nonsense. But then, someone from the crowd pipes up, saying it was the guard with the scar on his nose who spilled the beans. Back in the fray, and surprisingly, Scarface is still kicking despite being half charred. His cockiness has not taken a hit, though. He claims he was fully prepared for this moment, the opportunity too good to miss, and he cannot believe he is about to lose everything. But my guy, cool as a cucumber, armed with his metal spheres, tells this charred dude to quit his moaning and just die already because he has got a schedule to keep. With a flick of his wrist, the steel balls whiz towards him, and just like that, Scarface meets his demise. My guy stands there, wondering why all these villains seem to have the same old spiel, and honestly, he is sick to death of it. Then, out of nowhere, a light begins to shimmer before him, forcing him to shield his eyes with his hand. A pathway appears out of thin air, and in the blink of an eye, there is a massive gateway before us, with two birds gliding towards it. As these creatures draw nearer, it becomes clear they are not just birds but girls with wings, dressed in white, like angels descending from the heavens. Right on cue, a system notification pops up, revealing that Mana is recovering at a rapid pace. We then see these two angels hovering around our guy like bees around a flower, and in the blink of an eye, his health has also recovered. These ladies keep hovering around him, carefree as can be, while my guy stands there, unfazed, because he is a Sigma male, after all. Another system notification arrives, announcing that a new quest has been initiated. A devilish grin starts to etch across his face as the system window pops up, spilling all the juicy details about this quest. It is called Lightbearer, Become the Dawn of the World. The quest narrative reveals that Corporal Lee had stopped the conspiracy of the betrayer of mankind, the villain, and now he has the chance to become the protector of humanity, the Guardian. While these two ladies are still hovering around him, the system reveals that this quest will guide him to become the light of the world and asks if he is willing to accept the quest. With unfazed confidence, my man responds, absolutely not. Now, the once diligent ladies, brimming with enthusiasm, are left utterly bewildered by the unexpected choice he made. Then, the system window pops up again, asking if he is sure he wants to decline. Staring at the system window, he is mulling over the fact that the Guardian quests, with their pretext of protecting humanity, sound noble, but in the end, it is just another group. While the rewards would be guaranteed, his actions would be restricted periodically. Above all, his main concern is that a quest is merely a quest. But humans are not so simple. He reflects on the possibility that if this quest is misused, a Guardian could turn into a villain at any time. It could be the same as humanity's worst betrayal by Gordon Precy, who, after all, was a Guardian as well. So, seething in frustration, he straightforwardly states decline once again. But now, when he takes a casual glance to his right, it is clear that the blonde angel is not exactly on board with his life choices. And when he looks to his left, the situation is similar with the redhead angel, who appears even more visibly upset, bordering on angry. After rejecting the quest, the portal that had once opened now begins to close. In a blink, it vanishes, leaving him just standing there. Then, with swift gestures of his hands, he extends his arm and conjures a key from a pile of skeletons. The system window pops up again, announcing that he has won the first reward of the lucky event, Akashic Armory Key number 2. Apparently, this is the item that the scar-faced, root-manipulating villain was searching for, and he was dead set on acquiring it, even if it meant slaughtering innocent citizens. If it is the main quest reward, then there is no doubt it is an object the villains need. A devilish grin cracks across his face. Given that every villain is eyeing this key, he decides to keep it for himself. At this point, he is dead set on screwing over those villainous suckers big time in this life. Now, Scarface Guard makes a grand entrance into the scene, making it crystal clear to the fuming civilians that he is the only guard with a scar. So, they start confronting him, and as it turns out, he is not the one who fed the civilians bogus info to stir up chaos. But the civilians are still not having any of it. One of them points out that, either way, the guards hid the info about the double gate from everyone, so there is no guarantee they will not be used as human shields. Enter Corporal Lee, marching towards the angry crowd, absolutely livid at the sight. He cannot believe that Scarface, the root-manipulating motherfucker, is causing inconveniences from beyond the grave. The platoon leader steps in, trying to calm down this overly agitated guy who is really losing his cool. She tells him that even if they cannot trust the guards, they should at least have faith in the amped rescue team and urges him to listen to her. Meanwhile, my guy is actually amused by the situation. He is happy to see Battalion Commander Major Kim Kang-seok contributing to the chaos at Seoul Station, just like in his previous life. Only this time, Major Kim has sent the platoon leader, who arrived just when she was needed most, back to the riled up crowd, where the skeptical guy is throwing doubts at the platoon leader, questioning why they should trust her. He mocks the idea of a rescue team of just 6 people, calling it the joke of the year, and questions their rescue plan. But before things can escalate further, Corporal Lee storms into the scene, radiating authority. He yells at the top of his lungs, with all the energy of a soldier, reminding them that if the second wave hits, they are all going to be in serious trouble. But it appears that these two particular individuals in the crowd are still not satisfied and raise their voices, stating they just cannot trust any of them and blaming them for the current predicament of the civilians. Corporal Lee counters this with a glare so intense it could pierce through souls, challenging the guy by asking, since they do not trust the military, what alternative they propose. This leaves everyone momentarily stunned, and a heavy silence descends as they all confront the harsh reality of their situation. Even the platoon commander is left agape. Then, Corporal Lee begins to speak, revealing that the rail guards fought with their lives on the line. He questions if their sacrifice is not enough to earn the civilians' trust. He then asks if there is anyone among them who would be willing to put their lives on the line for others. Now, those two loudmouths who were the most vocal are left utterly speechless, confronted with the reality of the sacrifices made on their behalf. In a bid to win over the crowd's sympathy, the platoon commander takes a moment to criticize Corporal Lee for his intimidating approach towards the civilians and questions his audacity for giving them cold glares and treating them poorly. She demands to know where he has been hiding all this time, questioning why he is only showing up now. Corporal Lee then reveals that he has just secured the double gate. At this moment, Private Park is filled with joy to see his friend accomplishing such a feat, while the vice president standing beside him is left in amazement. Meanwhile, the rail guard acknowledges that such a feat is expected of an S-ranker. However, as usual, the platoon leader tries to downplay his efforts, accusing him of lying. She claims there is no way he could have secured the double gate all by himself and accuses him of blatantly lying to everyone's face. But our guy does not care about her accusations. He remains focused on the bigger picture, reminding everyone that the second wave is imminent. He urges all the civilians to find the best possible hiding spots, emphasizing the urgency of the situation and the need for immediate action. The scar-faced officer immediately springs into action, responding to the command by leading all the civilians to barricade the entrance with chairs and desks, urging them to hide as best as they can. Observing this, the platoon commander is left with what can only be described as a lost puppy face. Seething with frustration, she is utterly baffled by the commanding authority Corporal Lee is radiating, which leaves her no room to interject or get a word in edgewise. This leads her to question herself, wondering if this man is really the Lee Hyun-wook she thought she knew. Back where the portal popped up, and we are ticking down to the second wave like it is the premiere of the worst movie sequel ever. In this crucial moment, Private Park steps forward, handing Corporal Lee his precious blade and the Vice President her book, items he thought they might need. They are both quick to thank him, appreciating the gesture. Now, Corporal Lee, chilling on the ground like he is about to start a campfire story, signals everyone to huddle up because he has got some tea to spill. He reveals that the spider monsters from the first wave were not mentioned in the monster manual. However, thanks to his own metal manipulation abilities and the efforts of the guard force, they managed to stop them. However, he cannot shake off the feeling that for a surprise monster attack, it was a bit on the light side. The scar-faced officer agrees, acknowledging that while the spider monsters were certainly formidable, there was something off about them, making their threat seem less than expected. Corporal Lee then drops his theory. Maybe the reason these creepy crawlies did not live up to the nightmare hype is that they were just the opening act. It is the first wave, after all, hinting that the real show is yet to start. So, Corporal Lee, getting a bit more casual, throws out a thought that, since an unlucky event is still an event, it probably has its own stages. He is betting that during the second wave, we might see monsters that use some kind of spider characteristic venom. He suggests, with a nod to everyone, that it might be smart to don gas masks beforehand, just in case. Meanwhile, we catch a glimpse of the platoon leader in the background, and she is practically fuming. Steam could be coming out of her ears at the sight of not just the vice president, but even the guards hanging on to every word our guy says. It is clear she is not thrilled about the attention he is commanding, and it is driving her up the wall to see everyone so intently listening to him. Corporal Lee further explains that, given the vastness of Seoul Station, if poison gas starts spreading, the civilians could be at risk. So, they must lure the monsters to the outside platform at all costs. He then decides to lay out the details of this operation for everyone. He says that when the second wave starts, they must draw the monsters' attention and lure them outside. Lee volunteers for the luring task, while the rescue team and guards will wait outside in units, ready to attack the monsters from covered positions, much like they did during the first wave. The key is to hold their ground and bide their time. He stresses to everyone the importance of keeping their distance from the monsters at all costs. As predicted, the second wave of monsters begins to emerge from the portal, and the first thing they do is spray deadly poison across the area. Following the plan, Lee lures the monsters behind him, drawing them into the open. Following this, the soldiers and guards spring into action, unleashing a barrage of bullets on the creatures. They then start freezing them to ensure they cannot get any closer, executing the plan with precision and teamwork. And then, the boss of the monsters makes its grand entrance, changing the game entirely. Corporal Lee starts to lose his cool because this is not how things were supposed to go down. As the camera zooms out, we see the monster in all its terrifying glory, making the 6 feet tall Corporal Lee look like an ant by comparison. Now, Corporal Lee is terrified out of his wits and yells at the top of his lungs for everyone to run. Meanwhile, the platoon leader is completely baffled, wondering what on earth is going on. But then, in a moment of clarity amidst the chaos, he yells to everyone below, telling them to stay put and hold their positions. He insists that there is no change to their raid plan. They must lure the behemoth away from the civilians. The behemoth of a monster starts to survey its surroundings, noticing its fallen comrades sprawled on the ground like yesterday's trash, which makes it groan in frustration at the sight of its comrades' blood spilled everywhere. Then, it lets out a massive roar, with our guy standing defiantly in front of it, still trying to wrap his head around the situation. In his previous life, he remembers that the boss monster was supposed to appear after the second wave, not during it. So, he is left pondering how the future could have changed so drastically. Now we are at the scene where the soldiers and officers are on standby, waiting for orders. Even they can hear the monstrous roars echoing through the air, so loud and piercing it is like needles drilling into their eardrums. There stands Corporal Lee, defiantly facing the monstrous behemoth. In a fit of rage, the monster decides to throw a temper tantrum and attempts to strike down Corporal Lee. But with quick reflexes, Lee takes 2 steps back, dodging the blow. The giant's hand crashes into the ground with such force that it shatters the concrete like it is nothing. At this moment, one thing becomes crystal clear to the utterly terrified Corporal Lee. If he does not get his act together and stop this monster, it will mean annihilation for everyone present. The stakes could not be higher, and it is all on him to prevent a catastrophe. We are back in action, and Corporal Lee is gearing up to take down this beast. He is pretty convinced that if he does not put an end to this monstrosity here and now, it is going to be curtains for everyone at the Seoul Station. Flexing his metal manipulation powers, he launches a metal smash, and a light begins to flicker ominously above the monster's head. But pulling off this smash move is not exactly free of charge. His mana's taken a hit and has plummeted to 72%. And, would you believe it, despite the flashy entrance, the monster does not even have a scratch on it. Instead of the intended smash effect ramping up, it starts fizzling out on this particular adversary. Then, the system window pops up with another cheerful warning that the metal smash was a no-go because the strength of the steel is apparently more hardcore than the force of the metal smash. And just like that, Corporal Lee is left scratching his head, probably feeling like he just got slapped in the face without warning. Meanwhile, the monster is not just standing around waiting for an invitation. It swiftly lashes out with its giant metallic sharp leg, aiming straight for Corporal Lee, who is now only a hair's breadth away from becoming shish kebab. But wait, Corporal Lee's not out of tricks yet. He whips out his metal skill combo, manipulating metal in such a way that he is able to pull off a mid-air acrobatic move, dodging the leg as it whooshes past him. As the camera pans out, we are hit with the jaw-dropping reality of just how massive this behemoth really is. It is clear now why Corporal Lee's metal smash was about as effective as a mosquito bite on this giant. Finding himself in a real pickle, Corporal Lee realizes that his usual go-to moves will not cut it, literally. After all, if a pillar can get sliced like a cucumber by this creature, what chance does his body's strengthening transformation stand? There he is, in midair, witnessing another deadly strike headed his way. But Corporal Lee is not one to give up easily. With grace that would put a gymnast to shame, he pulls off some more of his signature mid-air acrobatics, regaining his balance with the finesse of a cat. Then, in a move that screams "hold my beer," he starts running up the monster's leg. It is clear that a light bulb has gone off in Corporal Lee's head. He is cooking up something risky, something so out of the box that it just might work. Because when you are the equivalent of a gnat to a giant, what have you got to lose? Meanwhile, the cavalry arrives in the form of the platoon leader and the vice president. But they are not exactly the cheerleading squad Corporal Lee might have hoped for. Without missing a beat, the platoon leader starts laying into Corporal Lee for not sticking to the original plan of luring the monster outside to take it down. Taking a trip down memory lane, we find ourselves with Corporal Lee reflecting on his interactions with platoon leader Lee Min-hee. In these recollections, we see a younger Corporal Lee addressing her with her full rank, Tactical Action Officer Lee Min-hee. However, Lee Min-hee, ever the tomboy, does not seem too pleased with the formality. She challenges him, half-jokingly asking if he is trying to butter her up or make excuses by being so formal. As Corporal Lee steps out from the shadows, he acknowledges how he made it out alive this time, attributing his survival to Lieutenant Lee. But the lieutenant, ever humble, tries to brush off the praise, insisting that doing her job is nothing extraordinary. Corporal Lee, however, goes further, expressing his gratitude for having her as his partner. He recalls a time when she claimed to have memorized all the tactical manuals required for an officer, questioning if she was serious about her claim. But she retorts, challenging the notion that battle tactics can be reduced to mere memorization. She clarifies that while she does absorb the information, it is more about letting the knowledge mature in her mind. This, she explains, is crucial for overcoming the limitations of her warp abilities, which require a deep tactical understanding to utilize effectively and at the right moments. Lee Min-hee proudly asserts that every tactic she employs is a testament to her relentless struggle for survival. It is not just about memorizing manuals, it is about applying that knowledge practically and creatively on the battlefield, something she has mastered over the years. Back in the present, the scene is intense. Lieutenant Lee Min-hee is practically screaming her lungs out at Corporal Lee, who is engaging the behemoth single-handedly in a daring display of bravery, or recklessness, depending on how one sees it. But Corporal Lee is far too entangled in his dance of survival against the monster to heed the vice president or the platoon leader's concerns. With every acrobatic maneuver and twist in the air, powered by his metal manipulation abilities, Corporal Lee's mana is plummeting at an alarming rate. From a concerning 45%, it rapidly depletes further down to just 32%. Despite the dire situation, he is fully committed to executing his unconventional plan, believing in Lieutenant Lee Min-hee's tactical acumen to decipher his strategy. As another of the monster's legs comes hurtling towards him, he dodges it with the same mid-air finesse. The collateral damage is becoming increasingly apparent, with pillars tumbling down amidst the chaos. It is then that a realization dawns on platoon leader Lee Min-hee. Corporal Lee is not just evading the monster's attacks, he is intentionally directing them towards the pillars. This revelation brings a new layer of concern to platoon leader Lee Min-hee. Even if Corporal Lee's strategy leads to the monster taking down all the pillars, she is acutely aware that the collapsing roof poses a significant risk. There is a high chance that their plan could backfire, potentially bringing both the monster and Corporal Lee down under the rubble. In a critical moment, platoon leader Lee Min-hee turns to the vice president, urgently requesting her to channel all the mana she can spare. The vice president, puzzled by this sudden demand, questions the rationale behind it. Without hesitation, Lee Min-hee reveals her intention to create the largest warp zone possible right at that crucial juncture. Meanwhile, with only one pillar left standing, Corporal Lee is pushing his limits. He is sprinting towards the final pillar, desperately coaxing his body to endure just a minute or two longer. His mana is depleting rapidly, now dangerously low at 27%. But as if mocking his efforts, the monster raises its hands skyward, then slams them down with such ferocity that the ground beneath them erupts into debris and rubble. It seems as though Corporal Lee has hit his breaking point. Yet, he has not thrown in the towel. Clinging to the last pillar, another monstrous strike descends upon him. In a bid for a few more seconds of resilience, he activates his body-strengthening transformation, turning his body to steel to withstand the impending hit. A system notification flashes a dire warning. Using the body-strengthening transformation beyond its threshold could wreak havoc on the caster's body. To make matters worse, his mana has now plummeted to a mere 3%. The monster's blow connects with the pillar, sending Corporal Lee hurtling backward. Miraculously, he manages to make the monster demolish the last pillar in the process. However, the cost is clear from Corporal Lee's expression. He is in no shape to continue the fight. He crashes into a wall with such force that it shatters upon impact, a testament to the brutal confrontation. As the building starts shaking like it is part of a mega-physicola candy experiment, cracks begin to spider web across its structure. It is a sight more nerve-wracking than watching your phone fall face down on concrete. Back to Corporal Lee, who is still partially embedded in the wall from his recent high-velocity encounter. It is clear to him that the building's seconds from pulling a dramatic exit, and he is hell-bent on not letting the monster waltz out of this catastrophe. So, with a determination that is half admirable and half what is this shit, he starts to peel himself off the wall, dagger in hand, ready for one last stand. But before Corporal Lee can dive headfirst into another possibly regrettable decision, Platoon Leader Lee Min-hee, armed with her enchantment and the volume of someone trying to talk over a metal concert, yells for the daredevil to hustle his way out of danger. Despite Lee Min-hee's vocal fireworks begging Corporal Lee to escape the collapsing nightmare, he stands his ground. Face bloodied and battered, he argues that activating the warp right now is their only shot at survival, even if it risks turning him into a permanent fixture of the rubble. Caught in a dilemma that is eating away at her, Platoon Leader Lee Min-hee is torn between the mission and her partner's safety. But in a moment of do or die, she triggers the warp beneath the monster, sending it tumbling down a level just as the building decides it is time to renovate, starting with the floor. The monster, looking as baffled as a cat in a bathtub, has barely a moment to register what just happened before the ceiling decides to introduce itself personally. Through the chaos, Corporal Lee, despite looking like he has been through a blender set on high, wears a grin of victory, thrilled to be in the thick of it with his old partner once more. As the building embraces its dramatic finale, collapsing around them, the Vice President and Platoon Leader are left in the aftermath, the former's voice a mix of terror and awe at Corporal Lee's audacity. Now, let us take a peek back once again, where the Steel Emperor stands above the body of a dead monster, telling his partner that they have lost way too many comrades in arms in this operation. It is making him doubt whether he actually deserves to be the leader. But the red-headed lady stays silent. She then turns to him and utters his name, sternly scolding him, calling him a pathetic brat. She asks if he is going to keep up with this weak talk. Then she questions him, who decides who deserves what, and asks if he still does not trust himself. But the Steel Emperor stays silent, probably reflecting on her words. Now, back to the chaos that is unfolding in the Soul Station. We see Corporal Lee in his battered state, trying to walk out. But his mana level is at 3%, and he is beyond exhausted. He is apologizing to everyone and then starts falling down with the crumbling building. Then he flashes back to the past, where we see the lady holding onto his coat. A pleasant smile is etched on her face as she tells him not to bear it alone. If he gets uneasy, she tells him to look into the eyes of the people around him who trust him and follow him. Now, in the present moment, we catch a glimpse of the Vice President and the Platoon Leader, both fully prepped and ready to catch Corporal Lee before he hits the ground. With his battered face, he manages to open one eye, just in time to see his friends and comrades standing by, ready to catch him. And there he goes, into the safe arms of the Vice President, who snags him midair as he pops out of the warp. Meanwhile, the Platoon Leader is pushing her limits to keep the warp gate open, sweating bullets. But then, Corporal Lee lands safely on the ground, and just like that, the warp gate snaps shut. The entire station collapses, with debris and rubble flying in every direction. It is like a blockbuster movie scene, but with worse special effects. Cut to outside the Seoul station, where the system alert blares, announcing that the boss monster has appeared. It is time to eliminate the boss monster, with almost 5 hours on the clock until the anomaly finally wraps up. Next up, we catch a soldier in a full sprint, desperate to update the commander. He bursts out with, "The media is having a meltdown. They are all over the story of boss monsters popping up and what we are doing about it." The battalion commander, upon hearing this, is practically stewing in frustration. It is like watching a teapot about to scream its lid off. Meanwhile, the Flower Guild president is soaking up all the gossip from her manager, who whispers the juicy bit that the director and the vice president hinted pretty loudly that if she keeps up her current tactics, her reign as the head of the attack squad might be as short-lived as a snowball in a sauna. Hearing this, the lady's about to blow a gasket. She rants about how these so-called brothers are ambushing her like a pack of wild dogs, orchestrating a takedown that is tearing her apart. It is as if they have been lying in wait, just for this moment. But then, we witness a pause in the chaos as the battalion commander and the Flower Guild president's eyes meet. It is an awkward moment charged with tension, like two cats on a hot roof eyeing the last piece of fish. The commander's glare could practically drill holes, and she is having none of it. She snaps out and tells Commander to cut the creepy stare off, deciding it is high time to break the ice. All she has to do is make that call. Seems easy enough. She nervously pulls out her phone, nibbling on her nails with tension thick in the air. She mutters under her breath, "Why him of all people?" But, trapped in the web of circumstances, she goes ahead and dials his number. And in a twist that could make anyone chuckle, she has got him saved as Crazy Dog in her contacts. Now, we are back inside the ominous black blob. The Soul Station is now nothing but dust and debris. Miraculously, Corporal Lee has survived. Alongside him, safe and sound, are his companions, with the vice president busily tending to Lee's injuries with her magic. As she works her healing spells, she confesses she was almost certain Lee was a goner. Now, we zoom in on Corporal Lee, whose eyes are a mirror of despair. The future has shifted beneath his feet, leaving him doubting the value of the knowledge from his previous life. He starts to wonder if is it all worthless now. He is now teetering on the brink of frustration, trying to piece together everything. In the midst of chaos, we see the ever-diligent vice president working her magic, quite literally, to heal Corporal Lee. The atmosphere is tense, a stark contrast to her focused calm. Cut to the platoon leader, who has clearly reached her boiling point. She is grinding her teeth in frustration, a tempest brewing within. Suddenly, she grabs Corporal Lee by the collar, unleashing a torrent of questions and expletives. She demands him, "Why the hell are you going rogue and making reckless decisions?" She makes it crystal clear that without her intervention, everyone inside would have been wiped out. She continues her fiery lecture, emphasizing that tactics are built on promises, on the trust that team members will execute the agreed-upon actions at the designated time. This, she asserts, is the bedrock of all strategy. As her words wash over him, Corporal Lee is hit with a flashback of a friend echoing similar sentiments about the importance of trust. Then, as if ignited by her words or perhaps the memory of his friend, a sly, almost devilish grin begins to play across Corporal Lee's face. He makes a sharp comeback, cutting off the platoon commander's rant to remind her that now is hardly the time for such discussions. Yet, in a twist, he expresses his gratitude to her. It seems her fiery words have somehow cleared the fog for him, and now he knows exactly what he must do. However, it seemed like the platoon leader was not quite on board with Corporal Lee's plan. She suspected him of trying to go solo yet again, pointing out that not everyone is blessed with a hide as tough as nails. They needed a game plan that did not rely on superhero skin. The platoon commander was just as shocked as anyone when he saw Corporal Lee springing back to his feet like a cat with 9 lives. He spilled the beans that the boss monster was about to make a dramatic entrance from the rubble, and he had a trick up his sleeve to welcome it. But Corporal Lee, with a grin that could sell ice to penguins, assured everyone that they were going to bring the thunder, literally. He rallied the troops, saying it was time to band together and shock the monster into submission. With the enthusiasm of a cheerleader on game day, he declared that the linchpin of their monster-mashing strategy would be none other than Private Park Junmo. Poor Park was left scratching his head, wondering why he was always the chosen one. And now, we are back outside where an angry crowd has gathered around, grilling the battalion commander with questions. It seems word has gotten out that a monster has shown up at Soul Station, and everyone is shouting the same question. What is going to happen to the citizens of Soul Station? They are demanding that the military and authorities make a statement. Then, the commander, feeling the heat from the public, finds himself teetering on the brink. He reveals that, with the additional details considered at this time, they are planning a briefing. For now, he lets slip that the secondary rescue team for this unlucky event has been deployed. But this just gets the crowd even more worked up. With a boss monster having appeared, and the military sending yet another rescue team that is even less impressive than a level 15 group, the crowd is baffled. They are asking, in disbelief, if the military really plans to defeat the boss monster by throwing a bunch of low-level personnel at it. Now we are zipping back inside Soul Station, and it looks like the monster's decided to wake up again. He is tossing debris around like confetti at a parade, making a grand entrance. This time, the monster seems madder than ever, grinding its teeth at the thought that these humans managed to outsmart it. It unleashes a massive roar, the force of which is so intense that it sends the corporal and vice president stumbling backwards. And just when you thought things could not get weirder, the monster starts levitating, legs spinning like a cartoon character. But then, something else catches its eye, a gigantic water bubble just floating there above it. The officer gives the signal, and the guards spring into action, dropping the water ball right on target. The monster finds itself taking an unexpected bath, completely drenched. But the monster shrugs the water off like it is no biggie, and it seems ready to move on to the next round of this bizarre showdown. Meanwhile, the guards are ramping up for the ultimate face-off. The guards fires up the amplification rune. Corporal Lee then yells over to Private Park, "Let us light this up." Private Park gets into action, funneling his lightning into the amplification rune, sending shockwaves towards the monster. The monster is not just standing there taking it, it is writhing in a mix of anger and pain. Private Park, not letting up, pushes his limits, pouring out as much lightning as he can muster. To push him even further, Corporal Lee shouts words of encouragement, urging him to keep the pressure up until they are ready to deploy the big guns, a massive frost rune. But then, in a dramatic twist, someone new bursts onto the scene, commanding everyone to halt in a voice that brooks no argument. Suddenly, an overwhelming force presses down on everyone, bending them to their knees as if the very air around them has turned heavy. Private Park, caught in this unseen grip, struggles alongside the monster, which also feels the pressure. We are back outside once more, where the battalion commander is standing his ground against an agitated crowd, all eager to know the game plan for neutralizing the looming threat. Then, the commander drops a bombshell. This time, the backup is not just any ordinary squad. They have got an S-class player with no level restrictions, the Fist King, Han Tieson himself. And there he is, Han Tieson, the authority figure, the S-rank player who is not just a big deal in Korea, being ranked number 1, but also holds the 9th spot globally. As he strides towards the monster, he assures everyone, "I have got this. Leave it to me and clear out." Corporal Lee cannot help but sport a massive grin, witnessing firsthand the kind of presence an S-ranker brings to the table. Han Tieson, matching Lee's grin with his own, gears up, his fists engulfed in flames, ready to show this beast why he is the top dog. Now, Corporal Lee finds himself in a whirlwind of confusion. The future he thought he had figured out is shifting before his eyes, leaving him unsure about the information he once trusted. Initially, his plan was to sacrifice the reward and just hang tight for 5 hours, hoping the monster would vanish on its own. The arrival of Han Tieson, however, was a twist he had not anticipated. He reflects on his past life, where, as an S-ranked player with no level restrictions, S-rankers were capable of soloing dungeons. The sudden appearance of Han Tieson at the station, clinching the clearing reward for this unlucky event, had previously cemented his reputation as the undefeatable fighter. In that past life, Han Tieson had managed to obtain the secret item, Minan and Maklar's secret armor, a feat that significantly contributed to his legend. This time around, Corporal Lee is feeling a mixture of vindication and anticipation. With a broad smirk spreading across his face, he is quietly thankful for Han Tieson's timely appearance. It is not just about avoiding the loss of the reward anymore. Lee is eyeing the chance to claim it all for himself. The monster, not one to sit idly by, launches an attack at the Fist King. But Han Tieson, with a mere flick of his palm, halts the beast's formidable assault as if swatting away a fly. Standing there defiantly, it is clear he is in a league of his own. With a sly smirk, Han Tieson readies himself for his counterattack. The armor on his hand begins to glow brilliantly, signaling the unleashing of a devastating blow. The monster is sent flying, crashing into the ground with such force that the onlookers are practically eating dust, witnessing the raw power of the Fist King firsthand. However, the dust settles to reveal an unexpected turn. The monster, this giant beast, does not have a single scratch on it. Han Tieson quickly realizes this opponent might be tougher than he initially thought. Yet, undeterred and with a determination that speaks volumes of his confidence, the Fist King does not see this as a setback. With lightning speed, Han Tieson launches into the air, leaving a trail of fire in his wake. He zips past the monster, breaks mid-air to change his trajectory, and then comes hurling down, targeting the monster's face with a thunderous punch. As he lands the blow, Han Tieson remains suspended in the air, his fist still shimmering with power, while the monster is forced back onto its feet, reeling from the impact. As the monstrous beast takes a devastating punch from the First King, it goes down like a sack of potatoes, sending shockwaves that scatter nearby soldiers like bowling pins. Amidst the settling dust, there stands Corporal Lee, clutching the Vice President, making sure she does not go flying off into the stratosphere from the pressure. Taking a closer look, we see the Vice President informing Corporal Lee that she has blessed him with mana, but she cannot afford to expend more since she believes the other teammates are more crucial. Corporal Lee, with a pleasant smile, reassures her that he will be fine and tells her not to worry about him since he is not planning to use his body anyway. But then, he abruptly snaps his hand out of her grasp and leaps down to the ground, heading towards the monster. Meanwhile, the platoon leader, as always, is throwing shade at him, asking what the heck he is trying to pull off this time. Now, here comes the Fist King again, grinning like a maniac with that gaping mouth of his, clearly having the time of his life. He starts throwing punches at the monster like it is a punching bag at the gym. The poor monster, after taking a beating of its life, starts crumbling into pieces. And just as the monster begins to disintegrate, Corporal Lee whips out his metal smashing technique. That is when the Fist King smells something fishy in the air, realizing a shady move is about to go down. Suddenly, the monster's chest explodes into a million bits, raining its insides down on the battlefield. The Fist King lands swiftly on the ground, bewildered by the unexpected turn of events. It is like someone snatched his kill right from under his nose before he could claim it. Then, a notification window pops up, spilling all the juicy details about the metal smashing ability. It is a rank D skill, and it seems to consume mana to crush metal, with the mana consumption varying based on the amount of metal targeted. Right now, Corporal Lee's mana is sitting at a measly 13%. Now, Corporal Lee stands tall beside the Fist King, both watching as the monster teeters on the brink of oblivion. With a stern tone, the Fist King turns to our guy, demanding to know what the heck he wants. He reminds Lee that he would already warned everyone not to mess with his kills, yet here Lee is, snatching victory right out of his jaws. But Corporal Lee is not about to take any guff. He snaps back, calling out the Fist King for his questionable ethics, even for an S-ranker. The Fist King, now boiling with rage, demands to know what Lee is blabbering about, denying any wrongdoing. That is when Lee hits him with a reality check, reminding the Fist King that he was the one who interrupted Lee's raid in the first place, so ultimately, Corporal Lee deserves this kill. The Fist King scoffs, questioning whether a mere corporal like Lee could have taken down the monster solo. But Lee, cool as a cucumber, tells the Fist King to buzz off. And that is when things really heat up. The Fist King, completely losing his cool, threatens to squash Lee's head with a single fist. Out of nowhere, they both start sprinting toward the monster, each determined to land the killing blow and claim the glory for themselves. As Corporal Lee hurls his knife towards the monster, he is bellowing at the top of his lungs, letting the Fist King know that they are the ones who held the line until the bitter end. He is not about to let this so-called Fist King swoop in at the last moment and snatch his reward. Meanwhile, the Fist King is hot on Corporal Lee's tail, his eyes locked on Lee's sword. He is just as dead set on nabbing the kill before Corporal Lee can get his hands on it. And amidst this chaotic showdown, the poor monster is probably wondering what the heck these guys find so fascinating about him. It is like being the unwitting star of a very strange and violent reality show. So, they both reach the monster, and Corporal Lee's sword starts slicing its way into the monster's belly while the Fist King launches his fist straight at the monster as well. The monster reels from the onslaught, crackling with lightning and fire as it takes a serious beating. Then, the Fist King gears up for another devastating blow, unleashing it with full force. The monster crashes to the ground, engulfing the entire vicinity in blazing flames. The shockwaves are so intense that even Lee struggles to keep his footing. Finally, we are outside, and the blob that once swallowed Soul Station begins to vanish as the monster lies defeated. The area is now free from its grip. As the blob dissipates, Soul Station is revealed once again against the sky. Among the civilians, word spreads that the monster was taken down in less than 5 minutes after the Fist King entered the fray. Finally, the survivors trapped in the station for hours start emerging. In the crowd, a concerned lady rushes towards her mother, immediately asking if she is okay or if she got hurt anywhere else. The mother warmly embraces her daughter, reassuring her not to worry, that she is alright. But then tears start welling up in the lady's eyes after the heartfelt hug, emotions running high after the intense catastrophe. Finally, relief washes over everyone as they realize they are safe after the harrowing ordeal. The news spreads across TVs, with reporters announcing a miracle. All the people in Soul Station survived once again. A notification pops up, confirming that the monster, the venomous ironclad Spider Queen, has been finally slain. It also congratulates survivors for enduring the unlucky event, hinting at lucky rewards for those who weathered the storm. Now, we see the Fist King looking at the system window, but he does not seem too thrilled with the outcome. Maybe he was hoping for a bit more recognition, or perhaps the rewards did not meet his expectations. As we glance at the system window, it reveals that a lucky reward will be given to the Fist King for assisting in the defeat of the boss monster. Now it is clear why he is seething with anger. Meanwhile, Corporal Lee is busy performing some wizardry while still lodged in the corpse of the monster queen, a clear indication of why our guy got the kill. Then, a notification pops up, indicating that an unknown energy is imbuing the Cloud Blade, reaching 24%. Finally, we see our guy casually snagging the reward the system threw his way. The bracelet he yearned for in his previous life is finally in his possession, and he gazes at it with wide eyes. Suddenly, another system window chimes in, stating that the user has obtained a manhua secret armor. It is a hero-grade relic with the trait that the user can level up the armor through battles. When infused with mana, it creates a thin layer of transparent armor over the user's skin, making it perfect for carrying and storing special features. It even contains a subspace that allows the user to secretly store items. And so, in the grand saga of Soul Station's chaos, our dude emerges as the hero, grinning like a devil who just got the last slice of pizza. Meanwhile, the Fist King is more disappointed than a kid who opened socks for Christmas, calling our guy a cheeky bastard and demanding answers. But as steam starts rising from our guy, he is not about to let the Fist King rain on his parade. He munches down on the bracelet reward like it is his last meal, while the Fist King throws a tantrum louder than a toddler denied candy at the checkout line. Our man turns around, giving the Fist King a look that could curdle milk, and sets him straight. He asks what reward is he talking about, and makes it clear that they are the ones who saved the day. He should be thanking Corporal and his team for letting this party crasher tag along like a lost puppy. And just like that, he drops the mic, leaving the Fist King fuming like a kettle about to explode. But hey, you gotta hand it to the Fist King for his persistence, even if he is more stubborn than a mule with a headache. He keeps going on about how the system works, like he is the guru of game mechanics. He then mentions that the boss monster's contribution is 7%, so his share is still bigger than Corporal's ego. As we glance at the fuming Fist King, his eyes shimmering with frustration and anger, he reveals that he endured 6 months of isolated training, only to be dragged into this mess out of nowhere. He firmly believes he deserves a hero-grade item at the very least to balance things out. With a terrifying tone and demeanor, he demands once again how Corporal Lee plans to make up for it. But our man could not care less about the Fist King's cocky attitude. A sly grin dances on Corporal Lee's lips as he thinks, "This dude must be kidding, arguing about time and compensation in front of a soldier who had to return to military duty for all this bullcrap self-labor." Suddenly, the entire area crackles with energy, fire intensifying around the Fist King like he is about to explode. He demands if Lee knows who he has dared to mess with, but Lee just shrugs it off, daring him to bring it on. Because Corporal Lee is not scared one bit. The Fist King can spout all the nonsense about solitary training and his contribution. But in Lee's eyes, it does not freaking matter. Because if the Corporal had to be compensated fairly for all the time he has spent fighting, then no reward could ever make up for it. So, Corporal Lee is ready to take this bastard down. No holds barred. Sure enough, the Fist King lunges at our guy with all his might, ready to land a punch that would make even Superman jealous. But just before impact, it is like someone hit the pause button on life. As the scene transitions, we see the battalion commander and the Flower Guild president bursting onto the scene like unexpected guests at a party. The Fist King's jaw practically hits the floor, while our guy's expression is like a confused emoji come to life. Then, Lieutenant Colonel Kim Kang-seok decides to drop some wisdom bombs, asking why they are all throwing punches when the gates are closed. Talk about raining on their parade. But Corporal Lee, ever the opportunist, seizes the moment like a kid catching the ice cream truck at just the right time. He grabs the Fist King's fist, but instead of a fight, he launches into a barrage of compliments, showering the Fist King with praise like confetti at a parade. With a swift nod and a cheeky wink, Corporal Lee makes his exit, leaving the Fist King standing there like a deer caught in headlights. And as Lee walks away, he salutes his senior like he is in some kind of military sitcom. The commander can only shake his head in disbelief, while Lee, with a grin as wide as the Grand Canyon, assures him that he is perfectly fine. "Thank you very much." But the Fist King is not having any of this nonsense. He screams at Corporal Lee, demanding that he get his ass over here. However, before things escalate further, the Flower Guild lady jumps in like a superhero with a verbal lasso, telling the Fist King to shut his big mouth. She admits she has no clue what is going on, but right now, she just wants him to shut his ass up. As tensions simmer down, our attention shifts to the sky, where TV news choppers capture every juicy moment of the Seoul Station incident, broadcasting live to the entire nation. The Flower Guild president makes a point that if the Fist King causes any more trouble, it will be impossible to contain the fallout, and it will not do any favors for the Blue Flower Guild's reputation. Still fuming, the Fist King realizes he is backed into a corner, with no choice but to face the harsh reality of the situation. Suddenly, a voice booms out, urging everyone to make way because the Brigadier General is on his way. Sure enough, a portal begins to materialize, and with a flourish, the teleport opens, revealing the Brigadier General floating in like he owns the place. Turning towards the Fist King, the Brigadier General cannot help but express his amusement at seeing the Fist King still lingering around. But the Fist King is still sulking, not exactly thrilled with the idea of heading home empty-handed, without any shiny medals or rewards. The general also notices the awkward tension radiating from the Fist King, not to mention the Flower Guild president is also standing there like a lost puppy. Taking a moment, the Brigadier expresses his intrigue once again, noting the presence of even the Blue Flower Guild master's daughter. He then asks if there is any problem here, but the Flower Guild lady tries to play it cool, warmly welcoming the general and brushing off any notion of trouble, stating that the gate is already closed now. The general gives a knowing twinkle in his eye, acknowledging that if they are talking about the Blue Flower Guild, there must be no problems there. The Flower Guild lady catches on to his wavelength, understanding exactly what the old coot is getting at. Meanwhile, the general turns to the lieutenant, who promptly salutes his senior. Back to the Flower Guild lady. She is grilling the Fist King like a master chef, wondering why Seoul Station looks like it got hit by a tornado when the Fist King was supposed to handle it without breaking a sweat. But the Fist King is still stuck on the fact that someone stole his thunder. Then, he drops the bombshell that he did not actually wreck Seoul Station or clinch the top spot in the raid. The president's jaw hits the floor faster than a cartoon character realizing they have run off a cliff, demanding to know what the heck he means he is not the first. But the Fist King is in no mood for further discussion. He reminds the Flower Guild lady that he has fulfilled all his responsibilities and insists that it is time for her to keep her promises as well. With that, he takes flight into the sky, leaving the lady reeling in the shockwave of his departure. She is left baffled by the revelation that the S-ranker who is known as the Fist King did not rank first in a mere level 15 unlucky event. She wonders who the hell could have ranked first then. Meanwhile, back with our guy, he is getting an earful from the general, who is finding it absurd that his military records specify Corporal Lee can only control up to 300 grams of metal, yet his reports now suggest he can control way more than that. Finally realizing that it must be the corporal who snagged the first spot, the general continues his tirade, suggesting that either the records are wrong or there is the possibility that Lee is not truly an F-ranker. The Flower Guild lady, overhearing everything, starts to sweat beads at the realization that this dude might just be a freaking F-ranker. The old coot, with a pleasant smile, finds the whole fiasco quite fascinating and demands a detailed debriefing while they take a walk. Because apparently, even in the midst of chaos, there is always time for a stroll. As the reality sinks in, the Flower Guild lady feels like her head is about to explode as she wonders what is going on. Meanwhile, our guy takes a leisurely stroll with the budget-friendly mob psycho. But at this point, Corporal Lee shoots him a doubtful glance. He is on high alert because he knows that Brigadier General Choi Yun-cheol is not a man to be trifled with. Choi's powers have earned him the reputation of a tactical nuclear weapon, and to top it off, he is remarkably clever. He is the one even the necromancer was most wary of, having attempted several assassination attempts against him. Finally, the general breaks the silence, demanding a report of what happened earlier. Corporal Lee snaps into action with a soldier's energy, but he cannot shake the feeling that the general suspects him of some unusual activity compared to his recorded abilities. He halts his steps and brings them closer together, adopting the stance of a disciplined soldier. It is time to stay sharp, because when the Brigadier General starts asking questions, you better have your answers ready. And so the corporal starts spitting out that not long ago, when he caught his second elite monster, his abilities instantly improved with an achievement message saying Dunce Rebellion. Instead of the 300 grams as reported, he is now handling up to 17 kilograms and has gained a few skills during his improvement spree. The general starts to wonder that achievement systems are certainly just as uncommon as quests. But right now, the only thing on the corporal's mind is that he does not want the world to know that F-rankers can progress. With a broad grin, the general buys our guy's story, but deep down, the corporal knows the general is not fully sold on it yet. Then the general explains that given the corporal's fighting strength and abilities, he could not be called an F-ranker, and his combat abilities are perhaps C-rank or above. Now the corporal hits with a realization that it seems the general also wants to scout him as well. So, the general gives a nod of praise to our boy for his fantastic job and asks if there is something he would like as a reward. Maybe some magic armor or anything. He tells him to name it, and he will have it. But Corporal Lee seems relieved that the general does not want to scout him. Seeing an opportunity to snag a shiny item, a grin widens on Lee's face as he reveals that there is actually something he wants. Then, he challenges the general, saying it is just that he does not think even a brigadier general could give it to him so easily. Now, the brigadier is even more curious to hear what this thing is that he cannot grant him. And with a drum roll, Lee bluntly states that it is one of the general's treasured items, a hero rank item called the Fail Knot. Suddenly, a sparkling realization hits the general as if Corporal Lee just found out about the stash of dirty magazines the general was hiding from his wife. It is a moment of pure comedic gold, where the general's poker face crumbles faster than a house of cards in a windstorm. Back at the broken-down Soul Station, the general is laughing so hard he is practically holding onto his belly like he just heard the joke of the year. With a playful twinkle in his eye, the general tells Corporal Lee, "Let us have a chat when you get another badge right on your chest." Corporal Lee, with all the soldierly energy he can muster, replies with a crisp, "Thank you, sir." As the general starts to stride away, still chuckling to himself, Lee cannot help but sulk a little. He saw this coming from a mile away. He knew that old man was going to change the subject faster than a politician dodges a tough question. But despite the disappointment of not getting his hands on the Fail Knot, Lee is still relieved. After all, a special promotion means he will be able to stay hidden for a while longer, and for now, that is victory enough for him. So a few days pass by, and we find ourselves at the 3rd Armored Brigade, 1st Battalion. A notification window pops up, stating that Manon and McClure's secret armor is being digested, and Invabofurin efficiency is at 150%, with about 6 minutes left until metal absorption is complete. As he sits on his bed, our guy is just pissed off at how long this is taking. But he reassures himself that hero rank items are harder to digest after all. Suddenly, Private Park appears on the scene, interrupting our guy's sulking. Along with him is Private Choi Mini, whose trade is Chaser and is an E-rank guy, demanding they do something other than PT now. But our man pulls up his shirt, showing his banged up body, and asks them if they cannot see he is totally bruised up. Then we see 3 other goons arrive at the scene. One with a bald head, Private Choi Tae-young, whose trade is Sniper and is also an E-ranker. The one in the middle is Private Park Sungmo, with the trade of a shaman and an E-ranker, and the purple-headed one is Kim Kyunjin, with the trade of a thief and also an E-ranker. As Corporal Lee reflects on the past events, he finds solace in the camaraderie forged through fire and chaos. In the midst of raids and life-threatening situations, he is grateful for the steadfast support of his friends and comrades who stood by his side, unwavering in their faith and trust. Just as he is lost in his thoughts, the door creaks open, and in walks Private On Minty, back from the military hospital after getting roughed up in the last confrontation with the kobolds. Reporting for duty, Minty's return is like a beacon of hope amidst the uncertainty of battle. Without a moment's hesitation, Corporal Lee jumps to his feet and wraps Minty in a bear hug, a silent testament to the bond they share. For Lee, future rewards pale in comparison to the simple joy of seeing his friends return safely by his side. As Minty stands bewildered by the unexpected display of affection, Lee chuckles and explains that it is all for him showing up just in time for training. Though Minty might not fully grasp Lee's sentiment, the warmth of their embrace speaks volumes. With cheerful energy, Lee leads the way, surrounded by his comrades and friends. In this moment of shared camaraderie, they form a tight-knit circle of support, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. After all, in the chaos of battle, there is no greater comfort than knowing your friends have got your back. As Corporal Lee leads everyone to the training center, he is determined to ensure their safety through rigorous preparation. But a sudden interruption halts their progress. We see Private Park, looking visibly shaken, comes running down and stammers out that Ka and lower rankers are not permitted to use this training facility. In his eyes, it is a place reserved for the elite, and mere mortals like them have no business treading its hallowed halls. Just as Private Park was dropping the bad news bomb, Corporal Lee swoops in and gives him a little neck grab wake-up call. Now, Park, looking like a deer caught in headlights, starts babbling about restrictions and how they cannot start training. But Corporal Lee's eyes are like two determined laser beams, and he is not having any of it. He pulls a 180, cranks up the volume, and starts yelling at everyone nearby. He is shouting about how everyone here survived an unlucky event, and asks them then why the heck everyone is getting jittery now. Like, seriously, he asks Park if he did not just leveled up or something. Lee's on a motivational rampage, and I cannot help but wonder if he has had one too many energy drinks. Private Park hits Corporal Lee with the reality check, reminding him that they were just backups back then, and now it is every soldier for themselves. Surprisingly, Corporal Lee decides to have Private Park's back, becoming his backup buddy or something. Private Park's face lights up with happiness, and he asks if it's actually happening. Suddenly, the training hall gate creaks open, giving off major creepy vibes. It feels as if there is a monster about to come out, and that the whole platoon is practically peeing their pants in fear. Corporal Lee, now standing behind them, goes all drill sergeant, pushing them and dropping F-bombs left and right. He sternly asks what the heck they are doing standing there, and sternly instructs them to get the fuck inside. But the soldiers are frozen solid, scared to even twitch. Then, a sly smile creeps onto Corporal Lee's face, like he has just cracked the code. After what feels like forever, everyone's finally herded into the training hall. Corporal Lee slams the shutters closed behind them, trapping those poor souls inside. Now they are banging on the shutters, begging Corporal Lee to let them out. But he is standing there, looking all determined and stuff, not budging an inch. Corporal Lee, still sporting that devilish grin, seems to be enjoying the spectacle of everyone freaking out. He is convinced it is just the beginning of their training, and now it is time for some attribute training, whatever that means. Meanwhile, outside the cafeteria, things appear to be going smoothly. It is like the calm before the storm. Inside, two soldier ladies are gossiping at their desks. The black-haired one spills the beans to her brown-haired buddy about how it was the freaking Frank Corporal who pulled off the blockade operation, and also cleared the unlucky event. The second lady cannot believe it, adding that she imagined him as some super buff dude, which clearly is not the case. Back to Corporal Lee, he is grinning like a Cheshire cat, excited that the trapped bunch will finally get a boost. Suddenly, though, he starts poking his ears, wondering why they are feeling so darn itchy. Now, we also get to see the red head officer busy doling out orders to two soldiers, instructing them to purchase supplies matching the number of workers in each company. Suddenly, her attention shifts to Corporal Lee, and she questions him if he was not supposed to be at his personal training. Corporal Lee, playing it cool like any junior should, fires back with a smooth excuse. He claims he is at the PX for energy supplements for his hardworking subordinates. Meanwhile, we also notice Sanguk, passing by, who cannot help but shoot Corporal Lee an annoyed look. Even the lady soldier on the other side joins in with an icy stare. Anyway, the officer digs deeper, asking if it is true he received the Dunce Rebellion achievement. Corporal Lee owns up to it with a crisp yes. But she is not buying it just yet, and bluntly states that his report about his extraordinary feat seems fishy. She demands to know what he is hiding, but Corporal Lee, with an awkward smile, plays innocent, asking, what could he possibly be hiding? Now, alarms start ringing in Corporal Lee's mind. He is left wondering if she is onto something for asking such pointed questions. Suddenly, their attention is diverted by some commotion nearby. Two soldiers are having a lively chat, but the lady's focus is quickly snatched by something else. Amidst the background noise, a broadcast from the admin room breaks in. The announcement cuts through, summoning Corporal Lee to report to the battalion commander's office immediately. The commander wants him. The broadcast wraps up, leaving the red-headed officer frustrated that just when she thought she was making headway, the broadcast came in right on cue. Corporal Lee, seizing the opportunity, is ready to go. In her parting words, the officer makes it crystal clear that she has got her eyes on him. She does not know what he is up to, but she is watching. With that, she dismisses him, telling him to go now. After narrowly escaping the red-headed officer's interrogation, Corporal Lee is determined to steer clear of her for the time being. With that hurdle cleared, he wonders why the commander is summoning him, especially since the promotion ceremony is still a few days away. As he walks through the corridor, voices echo from the battalion commander's office, sounding agitated. Corporal Lee reaches the door and knocks. Upon hearing the invitation to enter, he steps inside and snaps a salute, announcing his presence. But before he can finish his report, he notices the presence of Brigadier General Choi Young-cheol and the battalion commander, sensing the thick tension between the two of them. It seems like he has walked into quite the heated situation. Finally, the Brigadier General turns toward the Corporal Lee, and as the battalion commander attempts to speak, the Brigadier General intervenes, silencing him with a stern look and deciding to explain the situation to Corporal Lee personally. With a somber and serious tone, he begins to explain the grave circumstances. Just days ago, a red gate opened in the Shinram area, and the Blue Flower Guild had the raid rights for it. However, when the guild members entered to deal with the gate, chaos ensued. The Flower Knights, instead of facing external enemies, turned on each other, resulting in brutal internal conflict. The platoon commander desperately tried to reason with the soldiers, reminding them of their shared guild allegiance, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. The knights, consumed by madness, began attacking their own comrades. In the end, he too becomes a victim of the madness, chased down by his own comrades and succumbing to a painful death. The news about the Red Gate being declared a Trouble Rank 3 hits Corporal Lee like a runaway train. Trouble Rank 3 means that after 3 unsuccessful attempts to raid the gate, the organization is considered lacking in capabilities, and 2 or more organizations are required for a joint response. Corporal Lee's mind is racing with questions. He cannot recall any incident like this ever happening in his previous life. The Brigadier General continues to lay out the grim details, explaining that the Red Gate has an energy limit of level 18 or lower, with a maximum of 30 players allowed. The shocking revelation is that it has been reported as a zombie dungeon, implementing an impossible to leave until raid successful after entering policy. The gravity of the situation starts to sink in, and the challenges ahead become increasingly daunting. As the Brigadier General reveals that the Red Gate is the domain of the commander of the dead army, a necromancer, Corporal Lee finds himself terrified, because he does not want to entertain the idea that the necromancer has arrived. The Brigadier General goes on, mentioning that even the proud Blue Flower Guild sacrificed talented rookies and still failed at the raid. He emphasizes that dungeon raiding is typically a guild affair, but then his expression takes a creepy turn, and he points out that Corporal Lee is the best candidate for this dungeon raid. But then, Battalion Commander intervenes, sporting a disappointed look that clearly conveys his disagreement with the plan. Turning to Corporal Lee, the Battalion Commander questions whether he can actually pull it off. Now, Corporal Lee is left contemplating the situation. It is something he has not encountered in his previous life, and the potential connection to the necromancer raises concerns. Despite this, he becomes resolute and agrees to give the raid a shot. A pleased smile spreads across the Brigadier's face, while the gorilla of disbelief stands in the corner, gawking at the unexpected turn of events. Before diving into the nitty-gritty, our corporal figures he better snag whatever advantage he can for the upcoming Red Gate raid. So, he nonchalantly drops the bomb that his current weapon would not even dent a tin can, let alone take on the challenges of the mission. Throwing in a friendly grin, he casually nudges the general to spill the beans on that fail knot they chatted about last time. He makes it clear that with the fail knot in his possession, he guarantees success in the raid. The fail knot, a legendary weapon, is described as a one-shot arrow that never misses. It is associated with Sir Tristan, a character from the legends of King Arthur. Despite its incredible accuracy and magical effects, its difficulty to retrieve means it can only be used as a weapon once. So even in the Brigadier General hands, it's a treasured weapon that is like a last resort. But in the hands of someone who can practically control metal, our corporal's turning this legend into a whole new bedtime story. After Corporal Lee boldly demands the fail knot, a wide smirk appears on the Brigadier's face. With a sly grin, the old guy makes it crystal clear that it is not a favor, it is a deal. Corporal's got to bear the full brunt of the risk if he botches this mission. No free lunches here. But our man, undeterred, flashes a devilish grin of his own. He figures the bigger the risk, the sweeter the payoff. It is a gamble, and he loves it that way. Now, he is all geared up for this raid. But here is some juicy insides. Despite the norm of sending executives as leaders for dungeon raids, the Brigadier is sending him, a regular soldier, as the raid leader. He figures it is likely due to his rivalry with the Blue Flower Guildmaster, Yu Heck. Corporal Lee sees this as an opportunity. If he succeeds, it is a significant victory for a common soldier against an elite player from the Blue Flower Guild. Even if he fails, it will not necessarily be their failure, as they are only participating in the raid as backup for Blue Flower. If Corporal Lee succeeds, the Brigadier will put to rest claims of his uselessness and win the psychological war against the Blue Flower Guild. It is a win-win situation for Brigadier Choi In-cheol, and that is why he is willing to hand over that precious fail-knot. The Brigadier, being the shifty character he is, drops the bomb that Copperal's promotion to Sergeant will have to wait until after the raid. Now, our boy's no fool. He knows this old dude can switch gears like a chameleon, but he is not about to let himself be taken advantage of. So, with that same devilish grin firmly in place, Copperal turns to the Brigadier General and lays it out. The fail-knot was the promised reward for this gig, but if he pulls off the raid, he is looking for a little extra something. It is a bold move, and he is not playing games. The old man, not one to beat around the bush, assures Copperal that as long as he does not flop the raid, he will entertain whatever wishes he's got up his sleeve. Copperal, losing soldier energy, hits him with a casual thank you, sir, and throws in a solid reassurance that come hell or high water, he is making sure that raid is a success. Now, we are back with the goons who have just kicked monster butt and are huddled behind the shutter, inspecting their handiwork. Faces smeared with monster blood, they turn around to greet their fearless Copperal. In the mix, there is Private Park, all pumped up after breezing through the C-rank training grounds. He has got this newfound confidence, thinking he is the king of the world. With that same devilish grin making a comeback, Corporal Lee casually drops the bomb. Everyone's gotta suit up. The squad's left scratching their heads, wondering what on earth he is babbling about. Then, at the top of his lungs, Corporal belts out the news. They are diving into their first solo deployment. But the once happy face of Private Park is now looking like a scared kitten. Questions when he signed up for this roller coaster ride. A new day unfolds, and the military truck barrels its way to the destination. Inside, Corporal Lee takes center stage, dishing out crucial intel about the impending Red Gate mission. Given that it is a zombie dungeon, they are packing bullets infused with holy power, adding a little kick to the recoil. With a stern demeanor, he orders his comrades to exercise caution when firing these bad boys and emphasizes the need to stay on high alert at all times. Curiosity sparks among the troops as one soldier, unable to contain his inquisitiveness, queries Copperal about the fail-knot. Cool as a cucumber, Copperal reassures him he has got it covered. Sneakily, we catch a glimpse of him concealing the legendary arrow beneath his sleeves. As the military juggernaut arrives at the Silumdong Red Gate, the Blue Flower Guild's base camp, Copperal takes charge. He commands his platoon to disembark from the truck, gearing up for the mission ahead. Just as they start prepping, a native soldier saunters in, declaring a detour to an operations meeting before entering the fray. Copperal, ever the leader, follows suit, leaving the platoon in the capable hands of Park Junmo with a nod and a charge to handle everything in his absence. As the platoon soldiers gear up, their eyes unintentionally wander over to the members of the Blue Flower Guild. Let us just say the soldiers are not feeling the love from the Blue Flower Guild members, who seem to be less than thrilled about the support squad presence. Inside the Blue Flower Guild, a guy starts throwing shade, spilling the tea that these soldiers in front of them are part of the Ant support squad, regular soldiers, the lowest rung of the ladder. He questions whether they are not shouldering too much of a burden, hinting at some covert operation called Operation Retrieval, and then dropping the name Achilles like it is hot. But before he can dive deeper, the boss shuts him down with a resounding "shut your goddamn mouth." Apologies follow promptly, and the loudmouth is left zipping his lips. Meanwhile, Corporal Lee's ears have perked up, catching wind of the whole Operation Retrieval drama. Now, his mind's doing somersaults, trying to decode what this soldier meant by that cryptic phrase. The plot thickens, my friend. The big shot from the Blue Flower Guild hatches a plan to ditch the Ant as soon as they enter the dungeon. But a cautious voice beside him warns that going solo might not be the brightest idea. Survival's no guarantee. Unfazed, the big shot reveals that, in the grand scheme of raids, everyone's life is on the line, and each person must protect themselves. It is a harsh reality, and they have no choice in the matter. Meanwhile, Corporal Lee waltzes into the meeting room, expecting a crowd. But surprisingly, it is just the guild president, flying solo. Red flags start waving in Copperal's mind as he wonders if there was supposed to be a full-blown meeting. The lady, making a beeline toward our guy, spills the beans that she had a hunch Copperal would show up. She reminisces about the time he, without hesitation, pocketed her business card as an F-ranker. Copperal cuts to the chase, admitting he never asked for it. It dawns on him that she is frustrated realizing she handed her card to a lowly F-ranker, and it is clearly bothering her. She then decides to ditch the past, and bluntly reminds Copperal that he is nothing more than a sidekick for this raid. She lays it out straight, instructing him not to pull any funny business that interferes with the Blue Flower Guild's plans. His role, stay in a corner. That is the sole reason she bothered calling him in. Copperal, now catching on to the Flower Guild's scheme, realizes they signed up for the support squad of regular soldiers just to boss them around. But no way in heck is Corporal Lee going to bow down and play by their rules. Asserting himself, he declares that both sets of troops have equal rights and are no less than the Blue Flower Guild. The lady, unimpressed, throws a casual "so what?" His attempt to level the playing field is met with a scoff, and she questions if he is suggesting they are going to take on a boss monster. She admits Copperl's got skill and guts for an F ranker, but she finds the idea laughable. Not one to back down, Copperl, to stir the pot, asks why they cannot take on a boss monster. He provocatively questions if she is worried the support squad might outshine the Blue Flower Guild in the raid. The lady then starts to chuckle and then she bursts into laughter that fills the room, echoing off the walls as she scoffs at Copperl's claims. Once she regains her composure, she questions if Copperl actually believes he will get lucky like he did at the Ciel station. But Copperl, undeterred, takes a few steps toward her, towering over her as he asserts that she should not dismiss his efforts as mere luck. The lady, seemingly unimpressed, throws shade, suggesting Copperl might have a death wish. She challenges him to enter the dungeon before the Blue Flower Guild does, but in the next breath, she rescinds the offer, making it clear he cannot. She drops a bombshell, revealing that 3 of this year's top 100 prospects are part of this raid. Condescendingly, she tells Copperl not to be a bother and orders him to stay out of the way. As Lady Yuhina, or rather Catherine, walks away, Copperl Lee is left scratching his head, bewildered by her lack of response to his provocations. His mind drifts to the mysterious Operation Retrieval, wondering if there is something he is not privy to. Unable to contain his curiosity, he calls her out with her title, but she insists on being addressed by her name, Catherine. Seizing the opportunity, Copperl proposes a bet. If the support squad manages to nab the boss monster before the Blue Flower Guild, Catherine has to grant him a favor. With a nonchalant tone and a peculiar grin, she questions if he has any idea who he is dealing with but agrees to the bet. However, she makes it clear that if Copperl loses, he will have to forfeit his life to her. The stakes are high, but Copperl, undeterred, accepts the challenge. The scene shifts outside the Red Gate, where the Blue Flower Guild confidently strides into the portal, leaving the fully geared support squad standing tall behind them. As the Blue Flower Guild activates their shields, the platoon commander swiftly issues instructions to his squad. They are planning to exit the entry zone before the other soldiers catch up, prompting the leader to command everyone to get ready to run. With a decisive order to enter, the entire Flower Guild squad steps into the portal, leaving the support squad on standby until they receive the green signal to enter in 3 minutes. During this tense wait, Copperl Lee checks in with Private Min, who reports back that he is okay. As the clock ticks down, the support squad prepares to make their move. Copperl advises everyone to stay focused, harking back to their training drills, reminding them to watch their breaths. With the command to enter, the support squad steps through the portal, emerging on the other side. However, the scene that greets them is far from what they expected. Instead of a relatively peaceful environment, they find themselves surrounded by madness. Flower Guild soldiers are tearing each other apart, a gruesome sight that shocks the newly arrived squad. Copperl Lee, thinking on his feet, places his hand over a soldier's mouth, preventing any screams of fear that could attract the attention of the frenzied zombies. The whole area is a chaotic battleground, with Flower Guild soldiers, some dead, others still fighting, and scattered limbs strewn across the ground like discarded toys. Even their team leader has succumbed to the monstrosity, now a part of the zombie horde. The support squad is thrust into a dire situation from the moment they set foot on the other side of the portal. In the midst of the chaos, there is one person who has managed to avoid succumbing to the monstrous fate that has befallen his comrades. However, even he is gripped with terror, watching helplessly as his fellow soldiers are torn apart, their blood splattering in all directions. Copperl Lee, with a swift hand gesture and military language unfamiliar to outsiders, signals to his soldiers to stand tight behind the zombies. As the colossal monster turns around, its empty eye sockets locking onto the support squad, a hushed tension fills the air. The soldier, unable to contain his fear, unleashes a piercing scream that could wake the dead. In response, the undead commander swiftly throws its hands towards the soldiers, attempting to grab them. In the face of impending danger, Copperl Lee reacts decisively. With a commanding voice, he orders the support squad to open fire. The soldiers, following their leader's lead, unleash a barrage of holy bullets from their guns. Copperl Lee, with precision, joins the onslaught, shooting holy bullets that cut through the air. Despite the relentless barrage of bullets, none of them seem to land on the colossal undead creature. A mysterious barrier appears to shield the monster, pissing Copperl Lee to the point of grinding his teeth in frustration. In an attempt to turn the tide, Copperl commands one of the soldiers, Choi Taeyong, to execute a plan. With precision, Choi Taeyong takes aim at the monster. Just as he is about to act, the scene shifts to a flashback where Copperl Lee is teaching the soldiers about shooting. During the training, a soldier raises a concern. He points out that modern firearms lack the destructive power needed to harm monsters effectively. Copperl agrees, acknowledging that the support squad will not be dealing critical damage. Even using holy bullets will not cut it against dungeon executive level monsters. Copperl explains that they are using rifles for the assault because of the noise they make, not their destructive power. As the soldiers absorb Copperl Lee's unconventional wisdom about noise, they start to wonder about the role it plays in this madness. Copperl reveals the intriguing fact that generally, zombies may have desensitized senses, but their hearing remains intact. So, while their firearms may not kill the zombies, they can disorient them. The squad is left in amazement at their wise and nerdy corporal. Expanding on the strategy, Corporal explains that by disorienting the zombies, they will not be able to perceive the squad. However, Baldy raises another question, asking if the zombies in this dungeon have senses other than hearing. Corporal drops a truth bomb, revealing that if that is the case, their chances of success are slim. Most of the squad would become zombies, and chaos would ensue as they kill each other. Returning to the battlefield, the narrative shifts to Choi Tae-young, who possesses the sniper trait. He is targeting the monster's ear, a crucial weak point. After locking onto the target, he pulls the trigger, bombarding the colossal undead creature with bullets in a strategic move to exploit its vulnerability. Moving on, the moment Choi pulls the trigger, bullets start flying everywhere, hammering the undead king. But honestly, it is kind of pointless because not a single bullet gets past his beefy shield. But here's the silver lining, the plan to get the undead king all disoriented is actually working. He is stumbling around, unable to hit back, which is their cue. Seizing the moment, Private Minty lobs a grenade towards the big bad. But get this, these are not your run-of-the-mill grenades, they are juiced up with some magic. In the blink of an eye, the grenade goes off. Looks like it did ruffle the big guy's feathers, but let us be real, it is more of an annoyance to him than a proper smackdown. Meanwhile, Minty is out here playing the hero, shielding everyone from the blast's backlash with his tanky self, always ready to take one for the team. But then, out of nowhere, the undead king starts to fizz out like soda pop, turning into mist and completely vanishing, leaving the squad scratching their heads in total confusion. Just when they spin around to check their six, that mist gets all cozy and starts gathering up again, and bam, the undead king pops up right behind them. Only this time, he is not throwing a solo act, he has brought a whole crew of his creepy pals. And these zombie minions from the Blue Flower Guild are diving straight at the support squad. And as we pull back for a wider look, it is clear we are not just dealing with a handful of baddies. There is a whole army of these freaks storming towards our squad. Immediately, Private Choi, Private Park, and Private Kim get the signal to change their magazines. As soon as they do, their guns suddenly go off and start to float. The corporal, with his metal manipulation ability, is ready with his 4 trusty guns. He takes a pause for a moment, waiting for the best timing. Then, with a simple gesture of his fingers, he triggers all of the gun's triggers, and the guns start bombarding the monsters with bullets, causing the mindless knights to crumble down. But these zombies are relentless. They are closing in with every tick of the clock, and it is just a matter of time before those guns run out of ammo. Just when it seems like we are in a tight spot, one of the smart cookies from the support squad, probably Private Kim, spots something shiny on the zombie. And would not you know it, he has got that thief trait, so he instantly recognizes it as a rare grade item. Meanwhile, as the undead king is busy playing catch-up, notices a giant blast on the horizon. Now, we see the corporal with his metal manipulation mojo just casually making grenades float around and go kaboom wherever and whenever he damn well pleases. Because why not add a touch of fireworks to the undead party? At this point, the undead king's had it up to here with these pesky soldiers, and he just wants to swat them away like annoying flies. He unleashes a roar of frustration, sending out some dark energy vibes. Now, if we shift our gaze to the support squad, it looks like all the undead buddies have bitten the dust, and the only one left standing is the corporal with his floating guns. The squad finally gets a moment to catch their breath, and one private, probably nursing some aching legs, thinks the crisis has passed. Another soldier nods in agreement, feeling the same relief. But our corporal, he is not quite ready to pop the celebration champagne just yet. He's got this nagging feeling that something's off. They dodged the threat according to plan, sure, but there is a lingering question. Why were not there as many zombies as they expected? And what is the deal with the boss monster's name getting all distorted in the notification window? The corporal huddles the squad together, telling them to stay sharp because the threat has not been completely neutralized. So, the corporal decides it is high time to skedaddle from there. Meanwhile, up on the mountain peak, there is this authoritative figure keeping an eye on the support squad. As the scene zooms out, you can see this big snake slithering around his body like he owns the joint. It turns out this giant snake and the vampire dude are buddies, having a good laugh at the support squad's futile efforts. But hey, even though they are having a chuckle, the vampire dude acknowledges the squad's efforts and mentions to his snake pal that it seems they have got some interesting ones coming in. As the support squad explores the surroundings, they feel like they have stumbled into a ghost town. Not matter where they look, there is nothing near the dungeon, no facilities, no zombies, nada. It is just an open and empty sandbox. The corporal, who has raided countless dungeons, finds himself on edge. He has never seen a place this strange before. While they are on surveillance duty, the corporal notices some metal moving in the surroundings. Quick as a cat, he readies himself, and with a swift finger gesture, he hurls down a blade using his metal manipulation, and it materializes right before the suspect's throat. But this guy starts screaming his lungs out, swearing he is just a regular human. The suspect immediately stands up, throwing his hands up in surrender. He spills the beans, saying he was hiding because he thought a zombie parade was heading his way. He quickly reveals himself as a survivor from the 3rd raid squad, a guy named Kim Tsip affiliated with the Blue Flower Guild. This hoodie-draped wannabe magician is a D-ranker with a sniper trait and a main skill in stealth. No doubt about it, this guy managed to hold his ground solo in this hellhole. But the corporal, he is not completely buying it. Doubts start creeping in, a lone survivor on top of everything. The suspect starts huffing and puffing, asking the boys for some water or a snack. Classic move, trying to win them over with the basic human needs. The scene transitions, and we find ourselves back outside in the Blue Flower Guild's swanky temporary ops room. The manager is spilling all the deets to the guild's vice president. Gugwang Group just sent out a secret cooperation letter to all the big guilds. The lady, biting her nails in nervousness, immediately asks, what does it say? The manager reveals that the player who retrieves his grandson's body and the hero-grade Spear of Achilles in the 2nd joint raid will be rewarded with a whopping 80 billion and a massive sponsorship from the Blue Flower Guild to the Players Guild. And of course, the news hits the lady like train. Now, back inside, we see the newcomer finally getting his hands on the support squad's supplies to munch on. While he is at it, he spills the beans that Flower Guild's top priority in this mission was to retrieve the spear. But as they entered the gate, everyone got sent straight to hell. Hearing this news, the corporal starts grinning like a devil. After connecting all the dots, he realizes that this was the reason the Flower Guild president was being so damn cautious. The famous Spear of Achilles is here. The newcomer drops another bombshell, revealing that the chairman's second grandson, Guding Hoon, bit the dust in the 1st raid, and he was rocking the Spear of Achilles. That spear was like the symbol of Gugwang Group. Now it all makes sense why they are dangling 80 billion as a reward for anyone who brings back the chairman's grandson's dead body and the Spear of Achilles. It also clicks for the corporal why the Flower Guild was giving them the cold shoulder during the joint raid. At this point, the support squad is left mulling over what they just heard. Private Minty, in particular, seems to be on the edge, looking like he has seen a ghost. Private Park, noticing Minty's distress, asks if something's up. Minty, hiding his face, mumbles that it is nothing, but it is clear he is spooked by all the creepy stuff going on. Meanwhile, our mysterious guy is back, perched on the hill, keeping a watchful eye on everyone. He does not seem too thrilled to see the support squad just standing around chatting. He wants to stir things up a bit for his own amusement. In the next moment, the giant, burly undead appears right behind him, and it looks like he is itching to dive into the action to have the time of his undead life. Trouble's brewing, and it is about to get real interesting. At this point, the corporal senses a bunch of different metals on the move. But it is not a dozen, not 39, not 70, but a whopping 120 of them. As the scene zooms out, we see the entire undead army ready to tear the support squad into shreds. Leading this gruesome parade is our snake-loving friend, complete with sharp fangs popping out of his mouth. On the other hand, Corporal Lee is on the edge of his roller coaster seat. The numbers are rapidly increasing, and he knows that is not a good sign. Without wasting a moment, he orders the support squad to go with Plan C. The entire squad is left utterly bewildered to hear this, and it seems like Plan C is no joke, a do-or-die kind of thing. In a flash, he orders Private Minty and Choi Mini to set up the equipment. As they open their backpacks, we see them filled with metal balls. Immediately, the corporal commands them to execute potion doping. Following his orders, they bring out drinks, crack them open, and start chugging as instructed. The newcomer in the hoodie is left confused, trying to figure out what is happening. Then, cue the system notifications. After drinking the Mana Star, regular Mana stats will continuously replenish for 5 minutes, and with the HP Star, regular Stamina stats will continuously replenish for 6 minutes. Now, there is an energy surge through the corporal's body, a much-needed boost before heading into the fight. It is about to go down, and the squad is gearing up for a showdown with the undead army. Now, the corporal pulls Private Park aside and shares some secret plan that they are keeping hush-hush. Private Park's initial reaction is a loud what? But then he nods, showing he is on board with whatever the secret mission is. Meanwhile, the newcomer is losing his mind, screeching and demanding answers about what the heck Plan C is. One of the privates spills the beans, telling him they are planning to run for it and advises him to stick close unless he wants to join the zombie parade. While the hoodie-draped guy is still bombarding them with questions, it becomes evident that the zombies are closing in. The scene shifts, and we see the beasts running at full tilt. Right on cue, the hoodie guy turns around only to be faced with a horde of mindless zombies heading his way. But then, Corporal Lee's trusty metal balls start hovering in the air. These are no ordinary balls, they are enchanted ones. Corporal Lee stands amidst the hovering balls like Magneto straight out of the X-Men, ready to save the day. Immediately, he commands the entire squad to withdraw from the current zone. It is all happening in the blink of an eye, and the race against the undead is on. Now we are back with this maniac, grinning at the thought of the soldiers sacrificing one of their comrades as bait. He chuckles, thinking it is the best they can come up with to save their lives. He is convinced his enormous undead army will wipe everyone out in the blink of an eye, making their efforts futile. Little does this goon know about Corporal Lee, standing resolute on the ground with his trusty enchanted metal balls. It is about time he unleashes a bombardment on the entire army, and he is fully prepared for it. Meanwhile, the soldiers are sprinting in the opposite direction, while the newcomer is once again doing his usual complaining routine. He raises concerns, questioning if Plan C involves abandoning Corporal Lee to face death recklessly. But Private reassures him that Corporal Lee Hyunwook planned this tactic himself, emphasizing that the corporal is not someone reckless who would just fail. Finally, the army is right in front of Corporal Lee, and immediately, he starts dashing towards them with his metal balls following his trail. Passing through them like it is no big deal, the monsters turn towards him, and they get smacked in the face by these enchanted balls. As soon as the metal balls hit the monsters, Corporal Lee, pushing his limits, unleashes his metal smash. The energy around the ball intensifies, shimmering in red, and in the blink of an eye, it blasts right in front of the monsters' faces, leaving a splash of blood in its wake. It is a moment of sheer badassery, and the tide of the battle may be turning. Corporal Lee, playing his own version of metal ping pong with those enchanted balls, and he is just going ham. It is like he is orchestrating a fireworks display for the undead, but instead of pretty lights, it is explosive metal balls raining down. Meanwhile, the snake-loving friend is once again perched above the mountain and is witnessing this shiny bombardment with his own eyes. Finally, he realizes that these folks are not here for a casual Sunday stroll. It was a deliberate plan to use iron beads infused with divine power, creating explosions. With all the noise from the beads, the monsters start going crazy. As soon as the sound echoes in the vicinity, the giant undead king turns around, shouting at the top of his lungs in a fit of frustration because this is not the kind of music his ears prefer to listen to. So here's Corporal Lee, chilling among the dead bodies of creatures, enjoying the aftermath of his metal ball extravaganza. Suddenly, amidst the roars of the undead king, he senses something different, a metal presence of a completely different rank. His eyes lock onto someone standing afar, and he wonders if it is a person. Out of the blue, the two bulky undead standing by the person take a leap into the air, shocking Corporal Lee. He is left wondering if this is the necromancer himself. The two monsters are now inches away from Corporal Lee, and upon contact, the ground beneath them shatters into a million pieces. Corporal Lee's helmet also takes a beating, but he is not one to break easily. He takes a leap and starts running out of the mess using some skill combo. However, it becomes apparent that he did not escape unharmed. A bleeding forehead is a clear sign that these seemingly ordinary-looking undead are anything but ordinary. There he goes, Corporal Lee, extending his hand like he is about to unleash a kind of whoop-ass on these mad undeads coming his way. Meanwhile, the snake lover is grinning, thinking he has got Corporal Lee cornered because those divine-powered iron beads he prepared have already run out, and the corporal's energy level is in shambles. But hold up, his face does a complete 180 when he sees the shards of the metals raining down from the sky. He realizes these are the same shards of the iron beads Corporal Lee shammed earlier, and the corporal is controlling them with his metal manipulation. In the blink of an eye, he pulls off a move called Steel Rain Free Fall, and blades start raining down on those monsters. Hell breaks loose, and an entire platoon of monsters crumbles into the ground, biting the dust. Just when we thought Corporal Lee might catch a break, the entire army of undead starts marching down his way, and the undead king is all fired up to take everyone down. But hold on, the undead king shifts his gaze once again, witnessing another explosion nearby. These are the enchanted grenades doing their magic. The entire horde of zombies and even the undead king himself is momentarily stunned in their tracks. The newcomer is utterly terrified, questioning why they are grabbing the undead's attention when the plan was just to sacrifice one guy and make a run for it. Private Park is having none of it, asking what the heck he is talking about and why he would think they would have such a ridiculous plan. Private Park spills the beans that this was a decoy operation meant to lure the zombies away from Corporal Lee Hyunwook from the very start. Looking at the Undead King, it seems their plan is successful so far. The Undead King changes his tracks, heading towards the explosions. Meanwhile, the snake lover is also watching the chaos unfold. Finally, it sinks into his mind that Corporal Lee was not the bait after all. They were planning a raid from the beginning. He is pissed that he never saw it coming, but being the maniac he is, completely drenched in his superiority, he starts laughing at the prospect that the opponent is strong, and he is going to have so much fun mingling with these ants. Now, Corporal Lee is looking around, trying to figure out what the deal is with this maniac who is laughing like there is no tomorrow. He is genuinely wondering what this guy's objective is in entering the raid gate, and to top it off, this dude seems to blend right in with the zombies. A window notification pops up, cautioning that less than 50% of the potion effect duration is left, with 2 minutes and 15 seconds of mana star effect remaining and 2 minutes and 58 seconds of HP star effect remaining. Meanwhile, Corporal Lee is scratching his head, contemplating if this is the guy he suspected. It appears that this guy has decided to take matters into his own hands, and his snake companion starts spewing out a fully fledged weapon like it is no big deal. Holding this snake's saliva-filled spear, his tongue is just dangling in the area, and the idea of poking a hole into Corporal Lee's head with this spear seems to be turning him on. So, the guy takes his stance, and his snake friend gears up for some poisonous action. At this point, Corporal Lee's curiosity gets the best of him, and he bluntly asks the guy if he is the necromancer. Just the mention of the word necromancer triggers something in the snake lover's mind. Corporal Lee, looking at his face, wonders if he is not the necromancer. The snake guy decides to break his silence and makes it clear that if Corporal values his life, he better start talking and spill the beans on how he knows about the necromancer. Corporal Lee, taking glances at his surroundings, figures out that these dead zombies are not resurrecting. Considering the guy's reaction, he concludes that he is definitely not a necromancer. But then, he throws another question at him, asking how he is connected to the necromancer. At this point, the snake lover starts fuming, grinding his teeth because instead of laying it out straight, Corporal Lee is further questioning him bluntly. In a fit of frustration, the snake guy shouts at the corporal, calling him a rascal. Unable to get the answer he was seeking, he lunges at Corporal Lee in frustration. No sweat for Corporal Lee. With a swift move, he deflects the direct hit. However, the power behind the snake guy's shot is no joke. The sheer pressure of the weapon hitting creates ripples in the surroundings, showcasing the force behind the attack. The snake guy is fuming even more, realizing how Corporal Lee effortlessly deflected his mighty attack. What the snake guy does not know is that Corporal Lee is rocking an indomitable steel body. He is using the ability of the hero rank weapon, Mana and Maclur's secret armor, which he snagged in the Soul Station incident. This weapon grants him 2 new skills, Mana Shield and Secret Tattoo. Consuming a certain amount of high hardness magic metal boosts the rank of the skill. Corporal Lee is fully aware that if it were not for the fusion of Mana and Maclur's secret armor with the steel alloy in his arm, it would have been game over. His arm would have been cut off. But then, the snake guy throws Corporal Lee back with sheer force. Undeterred, Corporal Lee gains his momentum, employing his skill combo technique. A blade comes hurling toward the snake guy from the back, but he casually deflects it with a flick of his spear, treating it like it was just a joke. He taunts Corporal Lee, asking if he actually thought these petty tricks would work. Unfazed, Corporal Lee takes another determined stance, still getting pushed back. Our corporal does not back down. He is still holding his ground, getting pushed back but not giving up the fight. Meanwhile, the shards of those metal balls in the zombie corpses start to shine like disco lights. Corporal Lee, with the grace of a seasoned dancer, hurls down a barrage of sharp shards at the snake guy. But hold up, here comes the snake buddy to the rescue, playing the ultimate bodyguard and shielding his master from every shard. Corporal Lee's left there, scratching his head, wondering what kind of snake has such VIP protection. In the end, the snake duo seems okay, but here's the twist, the snake buddy is now rocking a cool new look, pierced with hundreds of shards. It is like a metal fashion statement gone wild. Now, the snake guy finds himself scratching his head. After witnessing Corporal Lee's slick moves, he is forced to believe that this corporal is not just your ordinary Joe or Alex. His attack patterns go way beyond the level 18 player, and Corporal Lee must have surpassed the level restrictions of the Red Gates. On the flip side, Corporal Lee has a similar sentiment about this snake guy. He is also forced to believe that this snake lover must have passed some serious level restrictions. So, in perfect unison, they both throw the question out there, how the hell did they manage to get inside this gate? The snake guy is getting even more pissed, seeing that Corporal Lee is now pushing all the right buttons, really getting on his last nerve. Now, as we take a look at this guy's hand, we see the divine bead shards are burning his skin. That revelation hits Corporal Lee hard, and his eyes widen in disbelief because a player who can get harmed by divine power is none other than the notorious vampire players. They are the evil tribe that annihilated the AMT. This is when it was found out that the soul wave was coming. Meanwhile, the snake guy on the other hand is losing his temper with each passing second. He asks Corporal Lee if he has got a knack for pissing people off. With a swift move, he shrugs off all the shards that pierced him and his snake buddy. In the blink of an eye, their wounds miraculously heal themselves. Now, the snake guy is taking his game up a notch. He readies his spear, and a black energy starts swirling around it, threatening Corporal Lee once again. The question lingers, is he ready to have his limbs chopped off by the infamous spear, or will he spill the beans and reveal who the corporal really is? Even Corporal Lee is having second thoughts at this point. Observing the ominous energy emanating from the weapon, there is no denying it. It is the Spear of Achilles that the Gugwang group was desperately searching for. Corporal Lee is well aware of the grim reality. If the spear's true powers are unleashed, nothing could stop it. Not even his fusion of secret armor and steel body stands a chance against its might. So, after Corporal Lee realizes the gravity of the situation, he is not ready to throw in the towel just yet. He is dead set on decoding Snake Guy's upcoming attack because, let us face it, otherwise, his story might get wrapped up right there. Out of nowhere, the system window chimes in with a cautionary note, announcing that less than 60% of potion time remains. There is 1 minute and 43 seconds of mana star time left and 2 minutes and 22 seconds of the HP start time. Corporal Lee finds himself in a bit of a pickle because the potion effect will only last a little over 2 minutes, and he has got to play for the win within that time. It is crunch time and the pressure is on. On the flip side, the snake lover is fully prepared, ominous energy swirling around him, and he is dead set on tearing Corporal Lee apart into shreds. The showdown begins, and the vampire takes the liberty to strike first with his Achilles spear. In the blink of an eye, Corporal Lee immediately ducks down, leaving the attack to sail above his head. The blade he was holding is still suspended in the air. As the scene zooms out, it becomes clear that this attack is not just any attack, it is turning everything in its path into smithereens. Meanwhile, Corporal Lee, using his metal control prowess, prepares his dagger for a sneaky attack. He swiftly hurls the sword down, but within a split second, the snake fella chimes in and stops the spear from piercing his vampire friend, taking the full brunt on his head. Corporal Lee is fuming at this point, seeing this snake interfering in his attacks. So, this blood-sucking dude gears up for another attack, spouting more threats at Corporal Lee, reminding him that these petty tricks will not work. He hurls another attack down, unleashing the same dark energy once again. Now, Corporal Lee is genuinely feeling cornered because that sneaky snake keeps defending against all long-distance attacks. He cannot hit him with the bead shards at all. To make matters worse, this vampire is relentlessly whipping out dark energy attacks without giving Corporal Lee a chance for proper retaliation. It has made close-range combat nearly impossible. The snake guy is not even taking a breath, repeatedly sending down waves of dark energy. He is also utterly pissed, probably because Corporal spilled the beans about the necromancer, and this dude is not happy that Corporal is treating the necromancer's name like it is just another item on the menu. Finally, a grin starts to etch on his face, one that has been missing for a while now. He is about to play his ace up his sleeve, quite literally. The divine arrow is in his sleeves after all. Then, Corporal Lee turns to the annoyed vampire and casually asks him if he is really that eager to know who Corporal is. He nonchalantly reveals that he is just a soldier. To add a sprinkle of confusion, Corporal throws another question at the vampire, asking if he was already discharged. The vampire, not catching on to what Corporal is talking about, demands a straightforward answer. Suddenly, the vampire's gaze falls on a box right in front of him. With the same devilish grin etched on Corporal's face, he explains that this is precisely what he meant. Corporal Lee had already figured out that this vampire never set foot in the military. Now we find ourselves back where the zombies are on the chase, and the amped squad is doing their best to evade them. Private Park got a grenade, and he is all set to throw it into the mix. However, the newcomer tries to intervene, suggesting that they should use this opportunity to escape while the boss monster is nowhere in sight. He is convinced the raid squad would not stand a chance, especially with the zombie parade going on. Plus, he is pretty sure Hyunwook is zombie chow by now. He urges them to hide, emphasizing the importance of staying safe. Private Park, on the other hand, firmly believes in Corporal Lee's capabilities and insists that he is not someone who would easily fail. But this newcomer continues to question their certainty, asking about this mysterious signal they keep mentioning. Now, let us rewind a bit, where we see Corporal turns to Private Park and drops a bombshell. Before they bail out of this zone,